Oh, I'm back. I didn't realize the intro thing was playing. My bad, I should have not left on that. Let me raise my mic a bit. Okay, great heavens, we're finally starting episode 6. It's only been way too stalled. That was the most scuffed fucking theory stream I've ever done in my life. And I have a bunch of editing in my near future. Let's observe the light from the opposite. Can Battler succeed in playing the demanding role of Game Master? No longer any difficulty level. Not hints, but a conclusion. Okay. Very, very interesting. Let us make sure my... Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Are my notes keybind still working? It is, but I need to reposition it again in such a way that it's actually legible. So if I do this, I have to also undo this. Where is the episode end cutoff thing? I think I skipped it right here. It's somewhere here, I just skipped it. Okay, no, I'm being really slow. Okay, here we go. Control C this. I want to move it over like this. Perfect. Okay. And now I'm going to have to wait until we're actually in the game, but we're probably going to be doing something like this. Or rather, like this. And I'll hide it for now. Let's start the episode. And we will reposition it in a moment here. But, oh, I just started playing music, but you guys can't hear it. Hey, I already do on the game, okay, thank you. Okay, make sure the notes are in the proper spot so that they do not interfere. And now we will extend this up more to there. And I will lock it. And I will hide it. Now we are finally starting episode 6. Don't remember what the title was. I don't know if they gave it. I'm assuming we're post Tea Party that we just saw. Let me close everything else that I have open, because I have way too much shit open right now. Do I need to save what I have in Paint? No, I don't. Don't save. Okay. A beautiful glow shone in from the skylight over the Grand Cathedral. The place was somehow different from the way it had been during the witch's trial. The decorations had changed. The several pleasantly sparkling white ribbons were paper thin, but they hung beautifully in the air. Flowers were arranged all over in a way that would make any place look cheerful. It was like how a single drop of impure water could spoil an entire cask of wine. Just the presence of the flowers, the ribbons, and the red carpet that ran down the center of the room, wedding, made it hard to believe that this was the same place Ushirimi and Natsui had been falsely accused of a crime. It had truly become a wedding chapel, yeah. And we had talked about the whole Battler thing with the chapel, right? How Kinzo had been married there, I think they had said. So we're getting some big parallels between this. Are we gonna get some whole slimy, timey-wimey shit that he is Kinzo? Who the fuck are you? Love is generous, love is merciful. Oh, sorry, I gotta increase the game volume again. I don't think it's not at the proper level. There we go. See, I would have forgot that. Love does not envy, it does not boast. Those words, spoken by two demons who seemed to be in charge of this gathering, were part of a ceremony for making an oath of love before the eyes of God. Of course, in this wedding celebrated by demons, there was no priest in sight. Instead, there stood the witch who controls miracles. In sickness and in health. Yeah, a wife's true job is to be supportive in times of sickness. Is Balor about to get married here, bro? Isn't that right, Erika? Huh? What? Yes, my master. That looks good on you. What a fitting outfit for the one who has conquered the bridegroom. Giggle, giggle, giggle. I'm honored, my master. The bride standing on the carpeted path was Furudo Erika. The groom's face couldn't be seen. Well, I mean, I think we know who it's going to be. The bride's outfit was, without a doubt, a pure white wedding dress. The bride's veil represented both the white of God's blessings and the white of the demon's cruelty. A great many goat nobles, witches, and demons were gathered for this wedding. So I'm going to turn this down. This is like kind of loud. I don't know why. If only their heads hadn't been those of goats. It probably would have seemed to be a very refined crowd worthy of this great cathedral. I'd expect no less of you, Byrne. Every single thing you come up with is always so screwed up. A wife to support her ailing husband. Isn't that wonderful? It suits you, Erika. And congratulations to you too. Here comes Balor. Mr. Groom. Nanjo. At that point, Burncastle stared straight into the groom's eyes. I mean, it's like the least surprising thing. This is going to be a marriage of convenience, okay? The groom didn't answer. His eyes were gray. His lips would mutter something from time to time, but no one could tell if the words meant anything. Or is he going to wedding crash this by waking up because he's like still catatonic from everything? I don't know. We'll see. Hey, are you listening? All of you? She spoke to the groom in the plural. Of course. There was only one groom. And of course, the gray-eyed groom didn't answer. Giggle, giggle, giggle. You can hear, but you can't answer, right? Don't worry, okay? Battler? I'll take everything of yours and trample all over it. Hee 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 hee. Ahahaha. The Witch of Miracles sneered with an evil smile that would make even demons want to avert their gaze. Even that sneer provoked no response from Battler's dim eyes. People live for the sake of love. Oh my god, I fucking hate when I tab out and it does this. Therefore today you have fulfilled the purpose of your lives. Oh, how great is the power to live, the power to love. I pray that the brightness of this day blesses the two for all time. Just give it a rest already, you demons. What comes next? The couple will now make an oath of eternal love. After that, they will exchange rings. On Battler's hand was a ring bearing the seal of the one-winged eagle, proof that he was the territory lord of this world. And on Erika's finger was a diamond ring that could not be shattered by any miracle. Diamonds signify an eternal bond. However, in Greek, the word for diamond simply means unbreakable. Oh, a diamond is unbreakable. Good part of JoJo. Erika wasn't vowing to love Battler forever. She just wanted to take Battler as her property for all eternity. This wedding was being performed for the sole purpose of humiliating Battler. Don't worry, I won't love you forever. After all, the point of this ceremony is to make you submit to me. Your heart will be shut inside an inescapable locked room forever, where I, Furudo Erika, the detective and Witch of Truth, will command it. Your position as territory lord and your ring will become mine. Can't get... What was that? Sorry, I'm trying to align my pop filter here. What was that? Can't get out. Wow, look, it's everyone. Look, they all look all so upset. Oh no. Okay. Yeah, I'll bet you can't get out of that locked room. After all, you made that locked room yourself. You will suffer in that room for all eternity. I'll remain by your side as your wife for eternity, and get to enjoy that look of anguish on your face all by myself. Ahahaha, I'll defile you forever, Ushiramiya Battler. So the locked room, I'm assuming they're meaning Rokenjima. I mean, we already had some kind of an insinuation that he was the one that resulted in all of this happening to begin with, so it's maybe not the most surprising that they would say that he locked himself in that room, but every time I hear this, I say, this sounds like the fucking Steins Gate thing, man. I'm gonna look it up after I'm done, I just don't want any spoilers. I'm, like, pretty convinced that, this is the same singer that did the Steins Gate OP. It just, I don't know, it scratches the same part of my brain. Also, I will say in that earlier part of this video, it's pretty interesting that there's such a focus on Natsuhi, Rosa, and on Rudolph. Even there, Rosa, Rudolph again. Like, that was all the siblings, but I don't know, man. Like I said, Rosa, Jessica, top of the list, Rudolph third right now. I think Rudolph is going to be not responsible for being Beatrice, but potentially responsible for why things are the way they are, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think Rudolph is going to literally be Beatrice, but he might be the most responsible for this being the way it is, if that makes sense, I guess. But hey, I don't know, we're about to find out, I guess. Or maybe not now, but within the next 2 episodes, I think we'll have a pretty good grasp of what's going on, so. Ah, yes. Japanese characters I can't read. It all makes sense. The Witch of Theatergoing, Chapter Prologue. All that could be heard was the sound of the wind, a sound of misfortune, strong enough to bring sadness and unease to those who heard it. Slowly, I came back to my senses. I finally regained consciousness on top of a bed with a firm mattress. Where was this again? I couldn't remember where this was, but I could vaguely recall that it was very bad for me to be here. Okay, a guest room, looking like. The room was dimly lit. There was a light on, but that just made the darkness and eeriness of the room more apparent. There were no curtains over the window, but it was too dark outside to see anything beyond it. If I squinted into that pitch blackness, it felt as though I could see, or I would see, the witch of the forest peeking back at me through the darkness. And I averted my gaze from the window in fear. I couldn't see or hear it, but I got the feeling that if I left this room, it would be bright and warm, and someone would be there for me. I have to get to where everyone else is right now. Sorry for the hiccups. A bad memory from when I was very young began to well up. I was having trouble staying awake during a family gathering, and the next thing I knew, I was lying on a bed in a room I'd never seen before. I have the horrible, painful memory of waking up there feeling incredibly lonely and crying my eyes out. Okay. This room. I'm not supposed to be here. I just want out. Oh, I like this track. Once I started to think that way, I didn't want to stay in this room a second longer than I had to. This room scares me. It's creepy. Where is everyone? I want to get out of here right now. I love that fucking boom. I opened the door, trying to leave the room. A pleasant glow snuck in through the crack of the door. As I'd thought, the corridor was filled with a comforting light. I couldn't actually hear them, but I could sense that far away, people were enjoying themselves. Everyone else must be gathered in the room across from this one. I've been shut up in this lonely, creepy room, all alone. I should go quickly. Ooh. As soon as I thought this, a merciless metallic sound rang out, and the door refused to open any further. The chain had been set. I've always hated chain locks. You can open a normal lock just by twisting, but chain locks are built in a kind of annoying way where it's difficult to undo them easily. So I've hated them since I was very young. See? Even this chain is causing me trouble, and I just can't get it undone. Why is this happening? I just want to leave this creepy room right away. Just on the other side of this thin door, everything is bathed in a warm light. I can't undo it. I just can't undo this chain. The more desperate I grew, the more the unsettling darkness of this room seemed to close in on me from behind, and the more frightened I became. Then I finally noticed. There was something wrong with this chain. There is a chain, but this isn't a chain lock, it's a ball and chain probably. This is just a chain staked into the door so that it can't open any further. In other words, it isn't made to be opened. What the hell's going on? Who'd do something like this, damn it? No matter what I did, no matter how much I struggled, I couldn't pull out the stake or undo the chain or break the mechanism. This door was just a demon's mouth made to trick me into thinking it would open before crushing my hopes a moment later. Even so, if only I could just open this door somehow, I could get out into that pleasant corridor. This desire forced me to keep my hand glued to the doorknob. But it was useless. Both the chain and the stake were firm, and though they clattered about, there was no chance of them letting the door open any further. Even though I could see the pleasant hallway through the crack, I had no chance of opening the door any further. Maybe someone will come if I yell. Maybe the door can be opened easily from the outside. When I thought this, I tried to call out to someone, but it was as though the wind had been knocked out of me. I could mouth the words "someone come here," but no voice left my lips. What's going on? Someone come! Why can't I cry out? Help me. Help me. Help me! Not even being able to say "help me" out loud scared me more than anything. And if I turned around, the witch gazing into the room from the darkness outside might now be inside the room standing right behind me. I'm frightened. I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared. Someone help me. Someone help me. I can't get out, I can't get out. Let me out of this room. Help me, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared. Let me out, let me out, help me, help me. Okay. Missy, it sounds like they've arrived. Huh? Oh. Amakusa ran his finger down my cheek. I awoke in an instant from the doze I had just been in. Oh, Angie, we're back. I gloated at Amakusa for waking me up in such a creepy way, but he just played dumb. Where is this? It feels like a parlor in the house of some well-off person, but I have no memory of this place at all. Where is this? And why am I... Are you still half asleep, Missy? Yeah, sorry. Where are we? Huh? Apparently he hadn't expected me to forget something like that just because I wasn't fully awake yet. Oddly enough, I agreed. Why am I in this parlor that I don't recognize? Sorry, put my glasses on. The sound of the footsteps of the person, or people, that Amakusa had mentioned had come right up to the opposite side of the door. I could hear the sound of a conversation. They were probably women. Let me move my mic stand a little bit as I drag it across my headset. I apologize for that. That's actually my pop filter, but not my mic. But, you know, same shit, different name. Not really, but... Judging by the coffee and snacks laid in front of me, I was the guest here. In that case, I'd better remember why I came here. Or at least, who it was I came to visit. Who would it be? Who am I? Ushirimiya Angie. Who is the man standing behind me? Amakusa Juza. The man who used to be my guard long ago. Long ago is interesting. He's now the bodyguard Okanogi assigned to me. So we're in like the same kind of timeline in episode 4. In that case, after Aneva died, I must have thrown off my pursuers and gone on a journey to find out what happened on that day 12 years ago. Is this what happened? Did I have a memory of this? It's weird, at first I thought it was Battler that was going to be the person that was inside that locked room, but now I'm kind of insinuated that it's Angie, you know? So I'm a little bit wondering, but, you know, I guess we will find out. After a knock, the door opened, and the person I must have come here to meet entered along with a maid. Oh, wonderful. Even after seeing her face, I can't remember who she is. Sorry to have kept you waiting. This is Hachijo Toya. That's a relief. The maid introduced her to me first. And I finally remembered who she was. She? I was sure it was a he. Excuse me, but are you... Oh, hello? Oh, my. Oh, also, I didn't mention, I think, in the notes for the suspicion thing, I'll probably add it at some point, that, I do still have some relatively high suspicion that I have placed upon, Shannon. Just because of the whole Autumn thing. I don't necessarily think that Shannon is the culprit, but there's something going on also. Hello, miss. I am... Woo! I am sad, okay? I'm listening. Yes. I am Hachijo Toya. The magazines talked about your book signing event. Supposedly a mysterious male author showed up wearing sunglasses and a mask. Never thought you'd be a woman. What's the deal? That was a double set up by the editing department. I was the assistant standing behind him at the book signing. Huh, now there's a shock. I haven't read your works, but I'll bet you're even more of a mystery than your books are. Oh, I hope so. Hello. My readers only pretend to read my books. They buy them just based on the name of the author and the brand and think that they've actually read them. No matter what I write in my books, they don't truly read anything. They just pretend to read so they can look smart and knowledgeable and keep up with the current fad. Am I supposed to expose myself to these people? Why indulge such trash? I see. Looks like you really are the great Hachijo. This person really is eccentric. There's no doubt about it, this is Hachijo Toya herself. Hachijo Toya is a mystery novelist who's become the center of discussion lately. Although her actual books are apparently highly praised, it's her mysterious debut that's attracted so much attention towards her lately. Last year, she somehow managed to win several different awards for exceptional mystery novels offered by multiple large publishing companies, submitting each of her works under a different pen name. And after that, several highly regarded anonymous works were discovered, one after another, to have been stories she had written in the past under false names, and her popularity soared as she herself became more mysterious than her books. Despite all of this, the author herself never appeared in public, and everything about her was wrapped in a veil of secrecy. However, just a few days ago, this author had finally made a public appearance for a book signing, showing up with a mask that covered his face and drawing even more public attention. And yet apparently even that had been a fake. Given this person's radically unconventional track record, it was hardly a surprise to hear her casually insult her fans like this. I know quite a lot about you too, Ushiromiya Anji. Oh my god, her eyes, I didn't even notice, I was reading the text, I looked up and she wasn't doing like the squint. That's racist. I didn't mean it like that, I meant like, you know what I meant. She opened her eyes more, okay, chill. The talk shows have been discussing you for some time now. I'm sure you've heard nothing good. Yes, nothing good at all. Apparently you employ and then fire people on a whim, think anything can be resolved with money, and are an outlaw and a thug. That sounds about right. However, I happen to like intelligent people like you, ruthless businesswomen. Is that why you agreed to meet with me? Exactly. Also, all I'm gonna say, I see purple hair, I think Rika, okay? It's not really the exact same tone, because Rika's is more of like a blue-purple, but I'm just gonna say, you know, there's a little bit of something that's going on here that, you know, I'm on to you, okay? I'm on your ass like white on rice, okay? That's all I gotta say. Exactly. You're the only person who's managed to spot that Itoi Kukuro 0576 is another pen name used by Hachijo Toya. That's actually pretty impressive. Why do you gotta keep... I can't read this. Itoi Kukuro 0576. It was a pretty strange username. However, if you match the Japanese syllables to numbers, you can read it as 110-1996-0576. So this was the girl that wrote the letters then, it must be. Because that's what the syllables are. If you look at the... Okay, we're gonna do another stream pause, I apologize. Japanese syllables. So if I look at this, I want to see the I don't know how to would this be hiragana, or how would this be? Because the way that I'm viewing this now, I don't know how to, like, piece this all together, but those addresses that we were given in the notes, if I can... Also, I need to raise this, it's still not... I would like it to still show who is talking, ideally. See if we can get it to go. There is fine, as long as you can see. Ah, we'll make it so we can actually do the whole thing like this. Okay. Sorry, there we go. But if we go into the notes and if I find the spot where we have the... I'll just do Reben so that it finds it. Right here. 567. 0576. Yonaguni. 5167. 12341. 1234. Right? We can see this. So if we assume that we don't give a fuck about the last section, like it is here, and we only follow the first section, I'm gonna open another notepad here just so I don't have to tab back and forth. So if I do this, then I'll pull this off to the side so you guys don't need to see this. So it seems that the syllables are actually what the gibberish numbers at the end of the addresses meant. Okay. It's gonna be confusing because we know this was the one that was sent to Nanjo, right? And this is the only thing that makes it really weird. The problem is I don't know the... So... I equals 1. To equals 10. It's my translation key I'm gonna have on the other. 9 equals... Or sorry, ku equals 9. 6 equals rho. Okay. So then if I... The problem is I don't know in what order they are, like, setting these up, you know? Japanese syllables to numbers, if I search this up. 1 through 10. Okay, no, I see it here. I got it. This is, in Japanese, numbers are expressed using two main systems, the Chinese-Japanese Kongo system and the native Japanese Wago, or Wago, I'm assuming it's Wago. The Kongo system used for larger numbers and counting utilizes Chinese characters and sound. The native Japanese system uses words like hitotsu, 1, futatsu, 2, and mitsu, 3. The only thing that's weird about this... I have this on my side monitor right now, but I read basically exactly the search term that I pulled up. Huh. So it's matched up to, like, the Chinese things. But it's weird because it's kind of, like, bouncing between the two. Japanese syllable alphabet. Yes, I want to know this, but can you show me, like, the actual... I need to see the syllable pronunciation, though. I know you don't see this on... Sorry, I apologize for the pause here, but this is obviously pretty important. It's just that, like, so for instance, I'll pull this up on my main monitor here, and I'll switch to display capture so you can see what I'm looking at. Let me hide the notes. I'm looking at this, right? And to be fair, the AI thing could be wrong here, because this is just the stupid pop-up thing. But you can see that when it was talking there about to, okay, well, this is to for 10 right here. But then when it was talking about ku, well, that's ku right here is 9, right? Numbers beyond 10 follow a pattern of combining the 10s, ju, with the 1's digit. So juichi is 10-1. Juni is 12. 20 to 99, the 10th place is read with the appropriate Kongo number, except... So then it would switch to this. So then it would be... 20 is niju, because it's 2 10s. Okay. Sanju. Okay. I follow. But so these only work if we're talking about single things. So it might just be that 10 is replaced by this, and we follow the correct otherwise. So in that case, I'm gonna hide display capture again. If we follow this, where for whatever reason it's taking to as being that, because it follows otherwise, like the native Japanese one doesn't really make sense, it doesn't follow. It's just weird that it's only taking the part of these. But so let's look. So I'm gonna translate on my side here. We had 1, 2, 3, 4. This was for the Reben Island address. And again, assuming that we Don't give a fuck about the end. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, that would be I. And then 2 on this is ni. Ni. 3, 4 would be Sanshi or Sanyon. Huh. I, and then ni, and then... Let's see if it gives us all of them here. Look, I don't want to content cuck for a second. We're going to play it for 1 second just to see if it shows any more. 110, or 1101996056. This massive number is equal to 18 to the power of 8, 18 to the 8th power. In Japanese, Toya no Hachijo. So that's her name. That's how you read Hachijo Toya. Huh, very well done. Interesting. And that's what the whole number is. Ogan no Sato. Wait, that's how it's going to be done. The Golden Land, you're going to be able to... Toya no Hachijo. And Rosa pointed out how it wasn't Ogankyo. It was Ogan no Sato, or Ogan no Kyo. But it was Ogan no Sato was what she was saying. So, Sato, Japanese... Let me do this on screen just so if I come across something, it's all wonderful and we're all happy. So it doesn't seem... Fuck. Huh. Q. So this is close. Huh. Hachijo. 8 is Hachi. I don't know what the Jo part means, but... So you can see where that comes from, right? Toyo no Hachijo. And then... Okay. Yon and Nana are more commonly used in everyday conversation for 4 and 7. And I know this is because she is death, I believe, in Chinese. If you do Chinese word for death. Oh, no, I'm wrong. Is it the Japanese word for death? Yeah. So that's what it is. I think it also comes from... So if I did like 4. Okay, well, thank you. That's... You can't hear this. 1 sec. I'll mute the game real quick. You know what? Look, take my word for it. You can do this yourself. So then if I did to like Chinese, simplified, Si, and then if I do death, it's the first part of this. The Wang part is different, but Si is the same, regardless. It could also be that there's different. Regardless, point being, bad number. So Nana and Yon are going to be more likely for the different ones. But that's the annoying thing, is that for 9, there's different ways that you can say it. So let me hide this again. I know I'm content cucking and they're probably going to describe this, but I'm trying to do as much as I can by myself, okay? So the answer is, in the game we already have that it's ku is the explanation. So Yon is probably for 4. Yon equals 4. Nana equals 7. So we have everything, but we're missing... We would think that Ni is 2. San is 3. 4 we already said is Yon. 5 is Go. Okay. 6 Roku, but the weird thing is it's only a Ro. So I wonder if it's because you cut the second syllable. So for Nana, would it actually just be Na? instead of nana. Because every other single one, they've condensed it to one syllable, right? If we look at... I will pull up my display capture again, just so you can see what I have on my side monitor. This is the thing that I've been... Yo, welcome, what's up? This is what I've been translating here with this. And so then referencing what it says in the game, where it says Itoi Kukuro. So Itoi Kukuro 0576. And then when you convert this actual number into equaling this, you get Toya no Hachijo. And the girl's name is Hachijo Toya. So then we would think that all of the things would be related back to the person. So the person is probably a fan of Hachijo Toya's, is going to be my guess. Because how would she... They're going to be using the same, like, cryptographic thing that they're encoding the names. Which, this is the Reben Island one, was 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll do... Well, it was 5, 7, 6 at the end. And what was the... If I open up this, it was... Sorry, I opened my chat on my side monitor. And if I open up this, where was the second one? It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 7. These were the two addresses that we knew about. So we'll just put Reben. And then Yonaguni was this. So now that we have these, if we wanted to translate this, and we're going to cut out... I'm going to separate this. Because it seems like it only takes the first syllable. I also want to order these, because this is super fucking with my head that I can't do it like this. I love doing language memes in a language that I don't speak. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. But we have the pieces now, okay? This is where the guy did this for me in particular. So we need 8. What was 8 again on thing? 8 is hachi. Now this is a weird one because technically it's a double syllable, so it's probably just ha. So I'll do this. And then ku is equal to 9, and then to is equal to 10. It's weird to me that they did the switch where they didn't use ju and they used thing, because again we can go back to this. Well, I closed it, but okay, whatever. We rock with this now. So and then we can delete all this. So this is our translation key if we're going to try and figure this out, right? Again, minimize this for a second. Again, referencing back to this with the Ito Ikukuro, with this being her thing. The only thing that's annoying about this is that if you match the Japanese syllables to numbers, you can read it as this. Because she's doing it backwards. Because the number is already listed here, so you don't need to convert it back into something. You just need to convert the syllables into noises. So I, to, I, ku, ro. She converted these back into numbers. This number is equal to this. And it reads as Toya no Hachijo, and that's this girl's name. So now, it seems like we should be able to figure out who this was directed to if we can kind of figure out the same thing. So we would imagine that it's E, Ni, 3, 4 would be San, Yon, 5, 7, 6 would be Go, Na, Ro. That seems like total gibberish. But we'll see how this turns out. So E, Ni, San, Yon. Okay. 5, 1, 6, 7 is Go. E, Ro, Na. Now is this like a word scramble? Because you can almost spell Yonaguni with this, but it doesn't really do anything. You definitely can't spell Reben with this. There's this same interesting... To be fair, it's just two numbers next to each other, but... It starts with the same in both, right? And it's almost the same, but then it's not for the end. So then my only thinking is if you were to look at like the name of the place where it was sent, could you eliminate out the name of the place where the letter was sent from this to potentially get your answer. So if we look at all these, let me copy this so I don't destroy it. And let's eliminate Yonaguni from this. So there's no U. And now if this is the letters that we have left, the only thing I'm seeing here is you can't spell Rosa. Okay, I'm just gonna put this in the notes. We'll put this down at the bottom and we'll continue. But there's definitely some weird, like, language memes that are going on here. And then we'll just put here. Okay. So now if I hide this, now this is perfect. Let me close this, don't save that, minimize this, and let's get back to actually playing the game. Huh, very well done. I was quite impressed. In fact, I was so impressed I decided to let you meet me in person. Welcome to my mansion, child of man. Her manner of speaking was extremely condescending, but perhaps because of her elegant manner, it didn't feel particularly irritating. This person had a sort of majestic grandeur about her, which made that style of speech seem almost natural. At least, that's how it felt to me. In fact, it felt almost as though this was the manifestation of some noble being who would have no need to show herself before mere humans under normal circumstances. Since I'm not particularly a fan of hers, I guess this is proof that her mysterious charisma really is nothing to be laughed at. However, I didn't come here to talk to Hachijo Toya, the mystery novelist. I am interested in Itoi Kukuro 0576, the mysterious web author who only releases her works over the internet. Around the Japanese parts of the internet, Itoi Kukuro is an extremely famous witch hunter. However, she isn't a big opinion leader like Professor Utsuki. She's one of those message bottle forgers who are always the center of vigorous debate. Message bottle forgers are, as the name suggests, people who forge and post the contents of riddle-filled message bottles which purport to tell the story of the Rokenjima incident. Claiming to have discovered a new message bottle, they post either a very similar counterfeit or a new theory with their own interpretation of the truth, claiming that it was written by Ushiramiya Maria. They openly call themselves Ushiramiya Maria, write up a new bizarre tale as if they had been there themselves and knew the truth, and send their stories out into the newest sea that mankind has discovered, the internet, calling them the third or fourth message bottles. Okay, so this is really interesting. So, I don't know what I would refer to this lady as. Can I check the characters tab? What do they refer to her as? We'll just go with Hachijo. Hachijo is a message bottle forger. This is a weird timeline, too. So we're in, like, another timeline that's post-episode 3. Okay. I don't know if there's anybody even present yet on these. Oh, we got Battler in a fit? Okay, I see you. And then now it's showing Kinzo as dead. Interesting. So, all the first forgers were either simple pranksters or crooks trying to swindle collectors. However, eventually people who claimed to have solved the riddle of the message bottle's tales and reached the truth started to appear. I'm gonna sneeze. Achoo! Jesus, fuck, that was a big sneeze. I felt my fucking, I can't see. I felt my fucking stomach tighten up, for Christ's sake. Oh my god. My fucking nose hurts. Ugh. Jesus. Let me reread that. Sorry, my fucking brain is like discombobulated. Let me fix where everything is. My god. Oh. However, eventually people who claimed to have solved the riddles of the message bottle tales and reached the truth started to appear, and they started work creating third and fourth message bottles from Ushiramiya Maria as though they had moved over to the real teller's side. These people rewrote the tale of the witch with whatever interpretation they wanted, and every once in a while, certain theories would garner an enormous amount of support on the web. Are we gonna get like an ultra meta thing That we're actually playing a game that was made by Hachijo Toya to solve the mystery? Is this going to be the actual story that's revealed? Because I'm feeling like meta layers upon meta layers that we are reading a message bottle forger's thing. Because of this, some of those creations began to be so widely trusted that they were believed to contain some grain of truth. The more rigid witch hunters openly despised these people, calling them forgers, counterfeiters, or just witches. Though they claimed to have reached the truth, they refused to tell it and created fake message bottles as though testing everyone else. It's no surprise that the serious witch hunters were very annoyed by these forgers. However, there were many people who simply liked to entertain themselves with the occult fantasy of Rokenjima, and a small number of those accepted these creations as literary works. Glad of this expansion to the mysterious tale. Of all the forgers, Itoi Kukuro was the one most highly regarded. It's funny because people have started switching instead of calling retarded as being regarded, so, you never know which way you want to mean that. End of the Golden Witch. I read that one of yours. It's nice to know you have no qualms about killing off other people's families. Is that why you came all this way, just to say that? I think not, final descendant of the Ushirimiya family. Okay, I don't want to talk shit. This girl's like my favorite character already, and I know she just appeared, but in her latest forgery, End, she killed off at least 7 of my relatives. It is going meta on us, dude. It is. We've been reading her interpretations the entire time. Bro. We have been reading. Oh my god, wait. Dude, this is like meta upon meta upon meta. So that's, oh my god, it all makes sense. It all makes sense too. That's why there is no magic. Because this girl is telling us a story. That's why we've been playing the whole fucking thing. My brain is seizing. It all makes sense. We have been playing through her perspective of the message bottle forgeries the entire fucking time that we've been playing the game. Every single time that we've been playing this, we've been reading a story that this lady wrote, but this is what Nox was talking about, that the real reality of what happened on Rokenjima is still a thing. There was a legit murder that happened on Rokenjima, and this is a girl who believes that she has devised or figured out what actually happened. And so now, we are playing her creation and her presentation of all the bullshit to fit so that we can look back and say, hey, this is what actually happened if you peruse through the thing. Holy fuck, it's like 3 levels of meta. Sorry, my nose is still stuffed. Oh my fucking god, I might be like smoking crack, but I'm pretty sure that's what they're insinuating, because this line alone insinuates that the last episode we played was a forgery made by her. Fuck, so now this is so weird. Now it's hard to say how much we can trust at all about what happened. But we assume if this girl knows the truth, that she's leaving nuggets of truth in the stories she tells, and that's why magic is a thing, because it's totally bullshit. She's using it to obscure the important stuff. In her latest forgery, End, she killed off at least 7 of my relatives during the story. No, if you count Alliance and Banquet, the other forgeries, oh my gosh, she's made before now, then she's killed off most of my family in horrible ways over and over again. Of course, I'd want to complain. However, all of her works are known for being in both form and level of completion, the closest tales to those written by Ushirimiya Maria herself. In particular, Itoi Kukuro's first forgery, Banquet of the Golden Witch, was a depiction so complete that it even included Ushirimiya Ava's escape to Kuwadorian, so that was 3rd episode. People wondered whether this might be the true story of Rokenjima, and it even made it onto their talk shows. So they're saying that this girl's interpretation of it, so when we're playing episode 3, to be fair, that never happened in episode 3, we were just told about it. So far, all of these tales have been nothing more than electronic text on the web. However, people will eventually realize that Itoi Kukuro is actually Hachijo Toya. When that happens, these tales will become associated with that bizarre Hachijo, and no one will think of them as mere fan creations. That's why she has to abstract it off of herself. People will probably start wondering if this might actually be a 3rd message bottle she found and released under the guise of a story she herself wrote. When that happens, these stories will probably seem even more bizarre and credible. Oh, I see, sorry, they actually went the opposite way with what I was saying there. You are cunning, aren't you? Why do you say that? You're doing this to make your forgeries more mysterious and more credible. And what do you mean by credible? Once you've gained credibility, your forgeries will rise to the level of truth. So this is the whole conversation that was had in episode 4 about the entire purpose of the message bottles. Huh. This girl herself is kind of a villain in a weird way, that you could say. Because if you think about it, if we follow like the logic of what the game is presenting towards us right now, everything that we've played so far has been a story written by this character, right? However, she claims that she knows the truth of what happened, but she's like playing with her food basically, and she's writing everything down. She might even be self-inserting herself as Beatrice. I would almost even believe that. The only thing to note of this is I doubt that's the case because these message bottle forgers, there was only 2 message bottles that ever washed up on shore. Sorry, I'm gonna blow my nose real quick, one sec. There was only 2 message bottles that were ever released that were discovered, right? So we know that those are definitely true, or at least we assume they are. And there's multiple ones that were written after, but I don't think we've ever read the message bottles of like the true first 2 message bottles. I guess there could be an argument about, was it the very first 2 games were the first 2 true message bottles? And then 3, 4, and everything, because the way they're describing this is that this was the girl that wrote the 3rd episode, and the 3rd episode was deemed to be true because of how it mapped onto like the real world that we explained, but there's not really any proof or guarantee that what is being said there is actually true. But now that I think about it, it could very well be what Angie was talking about. Sorry, I have to clear my throat now too. It could very well be what Angie was talking about in episode 4, that, and it's sort of a thing that we talked about, is that further truth that comes down the line, even in like scientific theories or whatever, it overrides the truth that existed before that. Because of that very point, when we think about it like that, they could also say that this girl is trying to basically own the Rokkenjima story by creating and entering stories into the mythos to describe what happened, but that might not actually be what happened, but she's trying to make it seem as though the story that she's spinning is going to override the reality of what happened. Again, I think it all comes down to intention, that now, this is like I've never played the game, but I've heard that Alan Wake is a very meta level game, and I'm kind of starting to think that we're getting there. Man. So, recap, I guess, to boil everything down. Hachijo Toya has probably written all the episodes that we've played so far have been interpretations of what happened on Rokkenjima from this girl's perspective. And this girl has said that she seems to know, this author seems to know exactly what happened on the island. And Angie is now accusing her of basically playing with her family members' lives by creating stories about what happened. Sorry, my nose is running like crazy after sneezing. And so, because of that, she's basically trying to monopolize and almost take over the truth of what actually happened on Rokkenjima by printing more and more stories. Because it is a truth that will come out later. It will enter into the public ethos. The people will buy into it and believe it, much like what happened with her episode 3 story with Ava surviving Kuwadorian. And enter into being real. That's my current understanding. We'll continue. Rise to the level of truth. How foolish. Such a thing is unnecessary for my works. Is that because your works are the truth and not mere forgeries? Correct. They are the truth, so there's no need for them to rise into anything. You aren't Maria. And you weren't on Rokkenjima on that day. So how can you be so absurd as to call this the truth? Missy, you're getting a bit too stirred up. Shut up. How can you call this stirred up? I need to hear this girl's voice too. Okay, I don't want to be a gooner. If this girl has a hot voice, it's like she's entered into the best character category. We're gonna find out. I also want to find out the 2 devils that were speaking at the start, although it doesn't look like they have unique voices here. What the fuck does Nox have glasses here? Did I ever listen to Nox's voice? Okay. Die. Oh. Okay, it's not a Gap voice and it's not Beatrice, but you know, we'll put her in 3rd. You have to knock a goat character down a peg. Okay. Config, please. Okay. All I'm saying, you listen to Gap's voice? Okay, I don't know why the first time it doesn't play anything, I'm sorry. Oh, where's Beatrice? Okay, she's a little bit over the top. Let's chill out here. Gap, you're still my goat, okay? I believe you. Okay, let's continue, sorry. Angie realized that she'd let her emotions get control over her. She let out a sigh and shrugged. Your reason for coming here, it wasn't to yell at me for murdering your family several times within my forgeries, correct? Hachijo had been smiling at Angie kindly, but in a condescending manner, or else, like a mother might watch over a very small child. Angie realized this and was unable to suppress her irritation. Apparently Amakusa could tell that Angie was getting worked up. He joked around with her for a bit so they could start the conversation over again from the beginning. The thing you came here to hear, it's the truth that I've reached, is it not? Why are you so sure that you've reached the truth? Because I've understood all of the tales. And I'm asking you why you're so sure about that. Do you think the sun ever revolved around the earth? Hachijo suddenly started talking about the geocentric model. Angie was about to tell her not to answer questions with more questions, but she quickly realized what Hachijo meant. What, there's going to be like the heliocentric versus geocentric model, right? That eventually we went from the geocentric model, which we thought the Earth was the center of the solar system and or the universe, and we eventually said, no, I think we're actually going around the sun. Humans used to support geocentrism, however that theory has been disproved in the modern age. Does this mean that, at the instant the theory was denied, the sun stopped moving and the Earth started revolving around the sun? Okay, holy shit. I talked about this earlier in the thing, literally earlier in the theory stream, at the start of this stream. Well, this stream is cut up, kind of. That when people are referring to something, right, like a theory or a model existing to describe something doesn't mean that reality is being warped to fit that. So the way that I described it, it wasn't exactly the same, but you can get the same principle from it. That if you have, like, for instance, if we're talking about like the ancient Greeks talking about water versus us talking about water, if you want to use like the example in that case, they have a different model for it, but we're both referring to like the same thing. But did it mean that at the time of the ancient Greeks that water literally was one of the four elements, or that there was like a true underlying fact of the matter that we were both proxying for, and that maybe nowadays we proxy more effectively, we're closer to overlapping with whatever the real underlying truth is, whereas they were not? And I think that's kind of what she's getting at. It's not like the day that we switched, or the day that, like, I don't know if it was Galileo or Copernicus, I don't remember which person it was that disproved this, but the day that this happened, it wasn't like there was just a switch that flipped one day, and we were like, oh yeah, by the way, now we know, oh guys, look, the solar system, everything is moving back to, oh wow, look, we're actually, like, nope, it was always doing that. We just became cognizant of it, you know? Of course not. The truth doesn't change based on what humans believe. It's the same with this case. You denying my truth amounts to the same thing. Several scholars before Galileo proposed the heliocentric model. However, it was hard to objectively prove it using the scientific techniques available at the time. However, that didn't change the fact that it was the truth. And yet it moves. So you're saying the truth is still the truth whether you can prove it or not. Red statement, by the way. Correct. In the future, when the full truth finally becomes known, people will look back and realize that I had already discovered it. Oh my god, this character is so fucking based. Dude, the tier list is... I don't know if you can... Wait, do you guys hear that? Wait. It's the fucking tiers shifting as this girl surmounts all the way to the top, or summits the fucking tier list. What is happening? Apparently Angie just couldn't stand Hachijo's attitude. She kept getting irritated, and every time Amakusa would joke around until she settled down again. However, there could be no mistake that Hachijo was a genius, and had used her extraordinary intuition to form a most interesting perspective on the events that had occurred on that island. That was why Angie had wanted to contact Itoi Kukuro and hear about her viewpoint. That name is like, every time I see that, by the way, I want you to know I look at that fucking word when it pulls up in the text box and my brain seizes for like half a second. Still, she really was lucky to have been granted this meeting. Angie hadn't been absolutely sure that Itoi Kukuro was Hachijo Toya. She hadn't thought the publishing company would really contact the author, and most of all, she hadn't dreamed that the mysterious masked author would grant her an interview under such short notice. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that the sum of the events leading to the meeting made for nothing short of a miracle. Yes, a miracle. After all, in most cases, I don't get contacted by the publishing company at all and leave for Nijima the next day. Sorry, I need to pull that up. My brain had a... I don't get contacted by the publishing company at all and leave... Okay, so she's just saying it's a miracle that... Okay, sorry, that was just like a weird... Never mind. I left for Nijima, then I went on to Rokenjima. Then I gave One-chan Sakutaro. Huh? There's like a blank of time. Why would I have a Sakutaro? My memory of the future is all muddled. My head hurts. Hachijo said something about showing Angie something good, rose from the sofa, and headed for the study desk. When she turned her back, Amakusa asked Angie, who seemed to be troubled about something, if she was okay. Hey Amakusa, how long have I been here? What? You've been acting weird for a while now. What's going on? I can't remember how long I've been sitting here. Are you still sleepy? That's not it. I mean, I managed to get an appointment with Professor Utsuki, but the publishing company never got back to me about Ito Ikukuro. And in the end, I spent the whole day, or the whole of the day, unable to accomplish anything, I thought. Utsuki. Sorry, that name is also like a seizure for my brain. Huh? Amakusa, I thought you went to go get that large black bag. That's right. Just before we left for Nijima, Amakusa and I briefly parted ways. He said something about getting a weapon from an acquaintance of his, and he went to go get that large black bag. Wasn't that today? We got Angie doing some timeline jumping. So whenever she went through with the timeline of episode 4 and like died off or whatever, she seems like she's migrated to like a new timeline, I guess? I don't know if that's what she's getting at here. It seems like some memory looping thing, some memory bleed from Higurashi is coming into effect here. What am I talking about? I mean, didn't I go to Nijima, meet Captain Kawabata, and inside the bed shop, huh? She saw something in a case. She saw something in a display case that was in the thing, and she had like a fucking huge breakdown about it. But we never found out what it was. What? I wonder if it was one of her books or something? Is something wrong? Did my confusion and uncertainty make me sigh out loud? Even though Hachijo's back was to me, she slowly turned around and smiled as though she had peered into my heart. No, it's nothing. Strange memories, ones that I can't understand, even I can't understand. I tried to hide my confusion, but for some reason Hachijo had a strange glint in her eyes, as though she could read my mind. I have revived and killed your family several times within various forgeries, almost as a witch might. Reviving and killing them whenever you like, endlessly. Sounds almost like Beatrice, doesn't it? Yes, it does. So please follow the lead of all those people on the web, and consider the possibility that I might be a witch. She took a thickly packed brown envelope out of a locked drawer. It appeared to be filled to bursting with pages of printed out text. Perhaps this was a manuscript for one of her works. In the neat letters written with a fountain pen on the envelope, spelled out the word Dawn. There is no forgery by the name of Dawn, which must mean unseen. Angie could tell this was a new one. Hachijo's newest, unreleased forgery. Dawn of the Golden Witch. Title drop. For one such as I who knows everything, everything is boring. However, I don't dislike letting the ignorant read my works to see what kind of reaction they have. Bro, she's literally reacting to me. She's like, look at this dumb fuck. This guy was looking at a map of Japan in the theory stream 2 hours ago. Dumbass. And so I want you to read it. You want me to read your newest work, which you've created as the new Endless Witch. Correct, child of man. Whether you resent it or admire it, you can help me forget my illness for a time. Okay, interesting. Sorry, I've literally not been writing notes because I've been entranced with what's going on, but let's get some notes down about everything that's been happening. Sorry. Okay. The only thing that makes me question, I said this earlier when I said that she might have been Beatrice, is that I guess you could say that all like the fluff of the magic and stuff, like the lambda delta, all that stuff is just like extra fluff that's added on top of it. That's very possible. I'm not going to say that that's not that's not like possible. The only thing that I would question about this is that we know that there was message bottles that came out prior to her discovering them, right? So the only thing that I would wonder then is that she might be acting as that, but would that mean that there's 2 episodes that actually contained stuff that was not written by her? And then we have a bunch of other things that are added on afterwards. Then we have 1, 2, and 4 that still don't have any. We would assume that she wrote all of them, let's say. But I would assume she has. This girl, she's at the top of the tier list right now. She might fall from there, but... oh, I just want to put down that she has an illness. Hachijo has an illness of some kind. Okay. Let's put an end to this farce, shall we? Who are you? I don't remember ever meeting you like this. Yes, I did try to contact Hachijo Toya. However, in the end, I never got a chance to meet her. In other words, all of this is a falsehood. Whose piece am I this time? Sorry, but if you think you can tame Ushirimiya Angie so easily, you're making a big mistake. Hehehe. Yes, I hope you'd be this interesting. Ehe, am I getting baited? This isn't even... She finally couldn't hold it back and burst out laughing. I guess it would be too much of a... Oh my god, I did get baited. Gradually the space around them seemed to fill with a strange purple mist. The room itself seemed to twist and bend. Her figure also twisted, and after transforming through something that couldn't be described, she took the form of what she had just called herself, a witch. Okay, hello. Splendid. You did well to see through my trick. Okay, so she is... Hachijo... is a witch. I'm so confused, bro. It seems I'm the type that witches just love to cling to. All of you have that same condescending tone towards other people. I figured you were a witch right away. So I guess what she was saying, the reason why Angie figured this out is due to the discrepancy between the memories she had, because she is a piece that was... had survived on from post-episode 3, although we saw that perspective in episode 4, but it's a post-episode 3 existence. She had all those steps and everything that she had went to, and she was saying, well, you know, where I am right now kind of doesn't really make any sense if I follow this. So now this might just be another thing like in Higurashi, where we have a theory that was posited, that was so exact, that was so perfect, that it doesn't actually work. This could, however, still be a witch, but that was all I'm gonna say is if I did get honey dick, that was a good honey dicking, because they baited me pretty fucking well. I had bought into that whole story shit, hook, line, and sinker. So, Jesus. I'm really glad I went through all that time and, like, pogged out, like, the tier list. But, hey, we'll see. The novelist sitting on the sofa was nowhere to be seen. Even Angie's bodyguard, who was supposed to be around at times like this, was gone. There was only a non-human figure relaxing in a large, ornate rocking chair. So I guess it also makes sense when she mentioned, like... you know, child of man or whatever. The fact that she kept saying child of man, the whole condescending thing, acting like you were above us, but in reality maybe she actually was. Weird that she has like military, she has like a military badge basically, like she has a tassel, she has what looks like a medallion or medal of some kind. She has a weird like horns. You know who this is? Calling my shot right now? Call my shot. It all clicked. It all just clicked in 1 second. All because I looked at the horns. This is Hanyu. This has to be Hanyu, right? It has to be Hanyu. There's no fucking shot. This has to be Hanyu. But the only thing is, Hanyu wasn't condescending like this. Hanyu was like really nice. To be fair, I mean, Hanyu was also like, looked like a kid at the time. So when she said cure my illness, I guess that would also make sense from the witch perspective. Dude, is this gonna be Hanyu? Sorry, I apologize if you haven't seen Higurashi, but this is like... Okay, we'll see. I don't wanna... Your charming nature is the perfect thing to alleviate my boredom. Yeah, well, I don't see anything charming about this. Why am I alive? Wasn't I killed in a pretty nasty way for breaking the rule about revealing my name? Oh my god, wait, are we gonna get like an insane story about how all along Hanyu and Rika have diverged on paths because Rika became evil and Hanyu, despite all of this, is working to like get Rika back? Holy fuck. Sorry, I'm going crazy in my mind. There's so many things that are happening if this is Hanyu, which I think it is. Well, I did doubt that those people would just let me go so easily. What kind of farce will I be forced to go along with this time? I really don't care. I'll do whatever I can within the bounds of the role they give me, whatever I can to help Oni-chan. Of course I understand. Even if he wins, he will never come back to me. Even so, I'll struggle on. I'll make sure Oni-chan comes back to me of that day. To the me, I think I said. No need to lose your temper. I am not asking you to be at peace. Then why did you summon me here? Don't tell me you want me to read this new story or whatever it is you've written. That's it exactly. I do not want you to be my piece. I have always been a mere observer, and I have no intention of sticking my neck into their game. I don't get it. What is it you want from me? Be an observer for me, An observer of the fragments Beatrice has woven. An observer. I don't really know what you mean, but no deal. Dude, Howie Mandel just fucking put his fist through his desk. In the past, I observed the fragments through Battler's eyes. However, now that he has succeeded the position of Game Master, he is not a suitable observer because they can twist and bend it however they want, so you need the outside perspective. I am following this tale with true and earnest intentions. It would be such a waste to observe it through the eyes of Battler as he is now, like reading a detective novel backwards. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm still calling my shot. This is Hanyu, 100%. Hair color is as I remember it, maybe a little bit darker, but Rika's hair color was like a little bit different in this game compared, although it was a lot closer. It's the horns, man, it's the horns. I'm pretty sure Hanyu had purple eyes too. I'm googling what Hanyu looks like real quick on Higurashi. Okay. Well, I would prefer to have an image of her that's not, like, hideous. Okay, here we go. I'll pull up my display capture. This was Hanyu from Higurashi, okay? All I'm gonna say, there's kind of like the similar horns, although this one, she has kind of more like an Albedo style, if we're talking like Overlord. But, same eye color. Hair color, it's a little bit more faded. All I'm saying, okay? Call my shot. Babe Ruth in it. Oh, I didn't mean to skip that. It would be such a waste to observe it through the eyes of Battler as he is now, like reading a detective novel backwards. Oni-chan is the game master. What on earth are you talking about? Of course you don't know. You want to know, don't you? I too wish to know something. What kind of tale will Battler weave now that he has taken the position of game master? Furthermore, I wish to search for the truth Battler reached as part of my own mental journey. Oh, she had gloves on. I was sitting here looking like, what the fuck is up with her wrist, bro? Does she have, like, a disorder or, like, a bone growth or something? But, nope, she has gloves on. Furthermore, I wish to search for the truth Battler reached as part of my own mental journey. My illness affects me gravely. If I do not think, I cannot even keep my heart beating. So, you want me to read your new picture book aloud to you? You might as well interpret it that way. In exchange, you will also be able to take part in your own journey of the mind. I do believe that even you have yet to reach the truth. I think you want to continue on the journey to find that truth. I don't owe you anything. Don't push your luck. I can be lenient at times, but that is not usually the case. Angie hadn't yet reached the truth either. Though she knew the game was little more than a toy for the witches to play with, she wanted it to resume so that she could follow the tale and close in on the king called Truth. I might follow the tale so that I can find the truth myself, but I have no obligation to read it aloud until the end for your sake. Understand? Angie was willing to read the story aloud, but she could quit any time if this witch made her mad. She was, in effect, warning the witch not to annoy her. Of course. You call it a picture book, but to me, it is only medicine for a fatal illness. I cannot take that medicine without you to assist me. In other words, this is a mutually beneficial arrangement. She's also wearing, like, priestly robes, right? This looks like the exact same robes that Hanyu and Rika wore in Higurashi. So you're telling me to read you a book until you fall asleep. And in exchange, you'll let me read it too. Is that right? Precisely. If you are willing to accept, I shall ask that you become my reader for a time. Well, it's nice to get my own title, but all you really want me to do is read books, right? Becoming my reader means the same as becoming my familiar. In other words, what is done against you will be done against me. I will not permit anyone to disrupt my only interest, that being to read the rest of Beatrice's tale. I will not let Burn Castle, Lambda Delta, or even Beatrice force anything upon you. Is this the goat? Who is this character? Is the goat? This witch, who seemed to have an almost divine quality to her, spoke both quietly and forcefully. There was no threat in her words. I do want to see, actually, I don't want to content cuck, I want to see if her voice is different now that she is, like, in the witch form, or if, it's all the same. Nope, it's exactly the same. I need to hear all of it, okay, bro? I noticed that shit instantly. What was this option here that I saw? Object caching, okay, I was like, what the fuck is that? There was no threat in her words. However, even so, it was clear that she was on a different level than Burn Castle and the other witches, and not at all to be taken lightly. To be fair, we do know that too, because Hanyu was above Rika at that time, because Hanyu already had magic powers, so we would imagine, you know. So you'll offer me protection if I agree to read your book. Also, it makes so— oh my god, wait, it makes even more sense too if we think that this girl is Hanyu. She was talking about being endless. Hanyu had endless powers in Higurashi. Sorry, I should be putting a spoiler talk. Hanyu had endless powers in Higurashi. Because she was the one that was looping the time for Rika so that Rika could find her way through. But she was only an observer. Bro, because Hanyu couldn't affect anything in the physical world. She was trapped in there with Rika. She could only observe. And that's why she looks like Rika. Okay, I'm calling my shot. There is no fucking way I'm wrong on this. Okay, this guy's cooking with gas right now. Of course. What I want is for you to read aloud to me. I will not spare any who attempt to stand in the way of that. If my attitude seems arrogant to you, allow me to apologize, child of man. It may not seem so, but I am speaking to you with the utmost respect. Yeah, probably. I get the feeling that even that witch-like style of speech is the most respect you've shown anyone in the last few centuries. When you're reading a book, do you tell it thank you very much before flipping through the pages? I guess it is like that. I understand. Just by agreeing to have a conversation with Angie, she was showing an incredible amount of respect and willingness to compromise. Angie shrugged, but she also nodded to show her consent. Sure. I'll be your reader. I see that you showed a ton of respect just by asking for my consent first. Wow, look at that too. Hanyu, pro-affirmative consent? We stan a consent queen. You understand well, child of man. My name's Angie, not child of man or whatever. Hehehe. Very well. As proof of my respect for you, I will acknowledge your name. For her, acknowledging a human's name was like acknowledging the names of all the leaves scattered across the ground. So her acknowledging Angie's name was a miracle. No, it was immensely good fortune. From this point forth, Uchirimiya Angie will serve as reader and Miko to the Witch of Theatergoing, Featherine Augustus Aurora. FAA. So either Aurora or Augustus. Augustus is a very interesting thing to toss in there. Okay, a little Roman emperor, I see you. Featherine Augustus Aurora. Until you finish reading, I shall bring calamity to all who attempt to hinder your task. When the Witch of Theatergoing, Featherine, spoke, Angie was wrapped in a bright light. Oh, look at you go. Thank you so much. That makes sense. Hanyu and kanji is that, and you translate each character literally into English. It is feather in. Oh my god, it's so good! I fucking knew it was her. It made too much sense. Oh my god. Okay, so I see. Oh my god. It's all making sense. Angie didn't feel any particular change herself, but she definitely had been given something that only non-humans could sense. It signified that from this point forward, Angie would be attached to the Witch of Theatergoing. Dude, this also... Okay, I said this off stream. I was talking to a friend, shout out to you, Alan, again, that about everything that's been going on. He hasn't played Higurashi, but I was telling him about it, that the one thing in Higurashi, I will also throw up another spoiler talk. Let me make this smaller, too. This text is, like, way too fucking big. Like, do like that, okay? It's good enough. Can I center this? Where's the... I don't really need... This doesn't really... Where's the center to screen, please? Okay, well, look, we'll move it up. I'll talk while it's moving up. That... The one thing that did disappoint me about Higurashi, and it wasn't really anything to do with the story itself, well, it was, but it was more so that towards the end of the game with Hanyu and everything that was happening, we never really got much of an explanation towards the end about, okay, there we go, that's good. We never really got an explanation towards the end about, like, how Hanyu came to be, right? We never really got much of, like, that outside explanation. We never really got anything behind the fragments, and I love that this game is finally giving... not only is it giving an answer to what the fuck happened, in the sense of, like, the greater explanation of the lay of the land of the world for the story, but then furthermore, that now we also get to see, like, the aftermath, that something obviously happened. I mean, Rika has obviously gone and been a little bit, more cruel. She's definitely become a little bit more wicked and twisted since everything has happened. So it makes me, I don't know, it's sort of like filling a plot hole that, I guess it wasn't really a plot hole, it was like an unexplained thing that I really wanted answered in Higurashi, and we're kind of getting that at this point. But sorry. It didn't mean that Angie would gain some sort of special power, but at the very least, it probably meant that anyone wanting to cause her harm would first have to talk on Featherine herself, or take on Featherine herself. Now this is interesting as well. I literally just mentioned in the stream earlier, and it's actually almost, I don't know if serendipitous would be the right word to use here. Let me make sure that I'm using English correctly as my only language. Yeah, I don't know if serendipitous, whatever. That I mentioned that the knocking that happened in the last thing, that it was very similar to in Higurashi. I will put this up again. That in Higurashi, there's one scene when they go into the torture implement warehouse, or whatever the fuck it was called, the place where the Furude family stored all the old torture implements in the village, that when they went in there the one time, there was a banging noise that was unexplained. And you find out later on that it was actually Hanyu, that Hanyu had stayed there because of the events that had happened with Rika, and that she was jumping up and down, right? Oh my god, the no human on this island thing starts to make sense too, because if Featherine has been telling this story the entire time, if Hanyu's been telling the story the entire time and witnessing, that's why they have to add an extra stipulation. Then nobody was in the mansion, no human was in the mansion. I pointed this out so many times, there's no more humans, that they kept throwing in these stupid fucking, like, stipulations that seemed like they made no sense. But that also makes it really weird, because that means that Burncastle and Lambda Delta are probably aware of this girl. I can see why Rika wouldn't do anything to her. Maybe they're both afraid of her, because it seems like she is a little bit more powerful. But what I was saying is that it's potential that the knocking that occurred in episode 5 had something to do very similar to the banging that happened in the implement warehouse in Higurashi. And if it is, it's actually fucking hilarious that I brought it up earlier in the theory stream and had no fucking clue that this character was going to get introduced again. But to be fair, I have brought up Hanyu a few times while playing this regardless. Let's continue. I did read this, but I'll read it again. That didn't mean that Angie would gain some sort of special power, but at the very least, it probably meant that anyone wanting to cause her harm would first have to take on Featherine herself. Your name is pretty long. Sounds like some ancient Roman person, well yeah, having Augustus in it. What should I call you? Those not familiar with me, call me Augustus Aurora. After all the respect you've shown me, it's only fitting that I should respond in kind. I'll call you Featherine. Any problems? None at all. For an ailing witch such as myself, even being called by my first name will be an experience to be treasured and pondered over, child of man. I have a name. It's Angie. Even conversations like this are nice every once in a while. Angie, my Miko. Angie accepted her role. She would observe this tale with the Witch of Theatergoing. The curtain was rising on the 6th tale. Dude, what a fucking chapter. I don't know if I would say that's the best chapter so far, but it's up there. That's like a top 5 chapter for sure. My goat Hanyu coming back? At one time, only Beato and her fellow witches had gathered in this smoking room to chat. Now, however, an unusually large number of people were present. Ehehehe. I wonder what kind of game Battler's going to show us. I don't care what, as long as it's fun enough to relieve my boredom as I crush it. Leave everything to me, my master. I will perform to my fullest and give you the results you desire. Yeah, you'd better. If I kept making strange faces all the time last game thanks to you. Though I might start getting wrinkles. I can't fucking read, bro. Thought I might start getting wrinkles. There's no need to worry. The beauty of your face is without peer, no matter how wrinkly it may. That's not what you should say. You should just say that you're not going to give her wrinkles, not that she would be beautiful with them. But hey, it's okay. It's rare to see Burn in such high spirits. Beato's game board really is something else. How sad is it that the master of this game board is no longer with us? A tiger dies and leaves behind its hide. Looks like Beato has died and left behind her game. Even though chess still exists, no one knows the name of the person who invented it. Oh, you're right. Hahaha. Poor game creators. Everyone remembers Umineko, but they don't know the author's name. Sorry, let me raise my mic to a different spot. A little bit more comfortable spot. Let me move it, and there we go, that's much better. Come to think of it, Battler is really keeping us waiting, isn't he? Is he still setting up the 6th game? Gertrude, how are Lord Battler's preparations progressing? For your attention, I beg to inform you of the following. Know that he will be finished very soon. He must have a lot of confidence in what he's creating to keep us waiting this long. He really humiliated me in front of my master last time. I'll defeat him no matter what it takes. And you in particular, make sure you don't screw up again. I will meet the challenge with all of my strength. Are they going to give us a confirmation about why Cornelia couldn't use it? We assumed that it was Lambda interfering, and then they were setting up the whole Kinzo thing. I still feel like there had to be more than just breaking Natsui. I mean, I guess you could say it was just they were doing it for the fun of it, but Interesting. The previous game master, Lambda Delta, had confirmed that Battler understood everything about Beato's game. However, in order to prove it, Battler would have to run this game by himself and carry it through to completion. In other words, if Erika could crush this game of Battler's, she would, in effect, wipe away the dishonor of that last game. Though Erika was chomping at the bit to get started, it was taking Battler quite some time to show himself. Then a swarm of gold butterflies swelled out of nothing and formed a human shape. From the shape of that familiar dress, everyone immediately realized who it was. Beatrice? Oh my god. Oh, is my goat back? She has the life back. Oh look, it's Beatrice. And I thought you died and disappeared last time. Beato, the player, is the one who disappeared. This is probably just a piece. Battler's piece. Even if she is a piece, it does not change the fact that it is her. Yes, we already went over this in the theory thing. Beatrice gave an elegant curtsy as she appeared. This humble entrance was so vastly different from her usual high-pitched laugh that it created a sense of tension as they waited for the start of the 6th game to be announced at last. Father will be here very soon. I ask that you wait for just a short while longer, because that's kind of weird that she's got him referring to as father. Father? What's that? This game's new twist on things. Not only had Beato started talking in an unusually polite manner, she'd also used the word father, probably referring to Battler. For an instant, everyone was stunned into silence, but they quickly realized that this was a part of something bigger, and they grinned. Beato wasn't the type who could keep up this kind of act for long. He would probably fall apart in a few seconds, leaving her laughing and cackling rudely at everyone. Erika, who was itching for a fight, went for Beato almost at once. I never expected that incompetent Battler to reach the truth of your game. It must be Father's talent that led him to his profound understanding. So no, it seems like she's referring to Kinzo when she's talking here. He really is clever, although she could be saying... no, she could be referring to him. It could be both, but... You're pretty lucky, aren't you? If Battler hadn't become the game master, you would have never revived again. You certainly have the luck of the devil. Yeah, or it was all entirely planned from the beginning to play out this way, but... The devil? More like a witch. In any case, I'm going to pay you back in full for last time. You're just one of Battler's delusions, fantasies. I'll erase every part of you and knock you down into the abyss of oblivion. Dude, I know the Oblivion remaster just came out, but they're really talking about it a lot. They better pay this guy for it. Well, I also intend to hold my own. I, look forward to having a good, clean fight. I'm assuming there was also something there with the way that she referred to herself in a way that she wouldn't normally. I know there's Boku and Watashi. I don't know Japanese language enough. I know very little. But she referred with Watashi instead of Boku or whatever she would normally use, so there's obviously something off-putting in the way that she spoke. By this point, everyone realized that something weird was going on. There was no doubt that the face, the dress, and the hair were all Beatrice's. However, her expression was different. I wonder if it's Angie that's piloting her, if this is supposed to be the observer. However, her expression was different. Even though she had Beato's face, Beato would never show anyone an expression like that. I was about to say, she looks kind of like she's in pain. Bro, I need the drama between Rika and Hanyu. I need it. Just who are you? There was a heavy silence. Lambda Delta spoke for everyone there. At first, Beato wore a smiling yet confused expression. However, when she realized that the mood had gone suddenly stiff, her expression finally darkened and she hung her head. Who are you? You appear to be Lady Beatrice. But is that true? Even Delano was forced to ask despite the rudeness of the question. That was how much this woman, who appeared to be Beato, was not. Am I somehow different from the Beatrice that all of you were expecting? What are you talking about? Wait a second. Don't tell me you have amnesia or something. I was only born recently. I have no memories at all. But I'm studying hard in order to become the Beatrice you all expect. Beato. I thought I told you to stay in your room. Battler's voice came out of nowhere. His tone was very slightly cold. Beato's expression looked like that of a young girl being scolded. With a swirl of gold butterflies, the Kinzo theme too playing is kind of funny, Battler appeared. His dignified bearing and appearance were fitting for the ruler of this game, however his expression was gloomy, and his gaze was directed at Beato. Go back to your room. You aren't supposed to be here. I just wanted to help you however I could, Father. Go to your room. He spoke both softly and forcefully. Battler didn't leave her any room for debate. Beato hung her head and curtsied as she prepared to leave the room. Also. Yes, what is it, Father? My name is Battler. Never call me by another name again. Yes. Beato melted into a swarm of butterflies and disappeared. This was the first part of the tale with Battler as the game master. The witches had all expected him to come forward with some flashy big developments, so they were all fairly confused. Their mouths were still hanging open. This is an unusual approach. Pardon me. Please forget what you saw just now. So you're trying to trick us with this? You're scheming to give us the wrong impression, like another North Wind in the Sun strategy, aren't you? Is there something wrong? Don't worry about it. It has nothing to do with you people. You people? I see. Then it doesn't matter. Alright, Battler, please set up the new game right away. You've kept us waiting so long it's gotten totally boring. Sure. Let's start the 6th game. Erika, and you too, Burn Castle. This will be my tale, proof that I've reached the truth about Beato. Lambda Delta, please oversee this game as a former game master. Sure, looking forward to it. What's the title? Dawn. As in the dawn of the Golden Witch. Of course, the winter sun is quick to sink back below the horizon. Of course, my master. I'll drag it back down for you right away. At least your title is good, Battler. I'll give you that much. I'm glad you like it. Then let's get started. The 6th game will now begin. Battler solemnly announced the start of the game. Compared to his fired-up attitude at the end of the last game, where he and Erika had sworn to settle everything next time, he was extremely quiet now. Interesting. Look back, I just watched that movie like 2 days ago. Angie. Beato seems... Oh, I didn't mean to double tap that. Beato seems very different from the way she was before. I'm surprised too. I don't have a clue what's going on. In fact, I don't even get why Beato's revived in the first place. I just finished reading it a little while ago, but at the end of the previous tale, didn't she die just before Oni-chan reached the truth? There are 2 kinds of death in this world. One of them is when a piece is taken from the game board. There is only a death within the bounds of the game, and these lives can revive over and over again each time you start a new game. Yes, we talked about this, that those are sort of whatever, but we have like an extrapolated version that is like the soul of that person, which is that Beatrice's real soul, the one that is living in the Golden Land, is like catatonic, basically. She's probably like on the verge of true like witch death. And that's why the witches are so merciless when it comes to taking those lives. To the witch players, these are just pieces on a board. The lives of those characters who appear on the game board are no different from pieces on a chessboard that take other pieces and get taken. After all, these pieces will be set up again when the next game starts. Maria Sakutaro is a prime example of these. Sakutaro is One-chan's piece? Yes, that does make sense. On the game board that represents the inside of One-chan's head, Sakutaro certainly does exist, and is a piece which always stays by her side. Though he's nothing more than a stuffed animal in the real world, on One-chan's game board he is a full piece, no different from any other. But I wonder, on the witch's game board, it's easy to revive a piece, right? But One-chan was unable to revive Sakutaro in her world. That's because she lost that completely unique stuffed animal that was his vessel. Because of this, the conditions for that piece's existence were violated, and it became impossible to revive him on Maria's game board. The only reason you were able to revive Sakutaro on the game board was because you once again satisfied the conditions for his existence, correct? True. Maria was only unable to revive him because she had lost the stuffed animal that was his vessel. If, like my family on Beato's game board, she hadn't needed a vessel for him, she would have been able to revive him as often as she wanted. So they're saying that, like, by the idea of creating a constraint which is a vessel, you kind of have a risk. Because they're saying that the pieces that are on Beato's game board, these aren't like, you know, they aren't tied to, well, at least as far as we're aware, they're not tied to like an object, you know? They're not tied to like a stuffed animal like Sakutaro was, things of that sort. So that when Sakutaro's initial vessel got dyed, he got clapped. Now, the only thing that's weird is that we do have the one thing mentioned. We had a comment, I think, that was made in episode 5, where I think one of the witches said they were going to expose the vessels of certain people, which I thought was a bit odd. But mainly, we had the one conversation in episode 4 with Jessica and Ronove, where Ronove was talking about how, like, Genji was like a brother, more actually like a vessel. But I think it's actually that Genji is like the piece that would represent like Ronove if we wanted to do it like in that aspect. Now the question would become, how many witches are there? Do these match up? If you don't include the goats, it is 17. Don't include Kenzo. $17 if you don't count Kenzo. The only thing with this list that's given here is Beatrice is not included. And then the question would become, like, some of these people probably don't necessarily relate to... I don't know, it's hard to match up. We think that Kumasawa's is probably Virgilia based on, like, episode 3. So there's some weird, like, vessel shit that's going on. I shouldn't say vessel, I should say more so like representation. So Lambda Delta is just an observer now. Huh. What is up with fucking Rika, bro? What happened to you? Sorry, I'm just trying to think. I'm gonna put this in the notes here. Let me pop the notes up real quick. Okay. I'll just leave it at that. We'll leave that. I don't want to stall for too long. Got it. I see that Sakutaro might be considered One-chan's piece. At least as long as his vessel was okay, he could have been revived over and over again. Correct. As long as the vessel is safe, it can be revived over and over again. That's what the life of a piece is like. That's the first kind of death in this world. What's the second? That's the death of beings outside the game board. To continue with Sakutaro example, this would be like Maria's death. Not the piece, but the real One-chan's death, right? It doesn't have to be her death. Loss of interest or concern would have the same effect. When Maria grows up from playing with stuffed animals, then Maria the game player will die. It's as quick and easy as turning off the switch on a TV when you get bored of it. I think we had posited this at a certain point that it could be... I was talking to Alan about this. That if I still stick to my idea that Jessica is Beatrice, and now that we add to the other stipulations that we seem to think that Beatrice might not believe that magic actually exists, but is trying to keep the impression of it. We know that it was in one of the very early chapters, it was either episode 1 or episode 2, they talked about how every girl around like Maria's age or a little bit older, you know, they get like an obsession with the occult. These are things that they talk about. And I feel like if you follow that character arc, it could make sense if I will say, I'm super like pigeonholing Jessica as being the culprit. When I say the culprit being Beatrice, again, it seems like there's much more interference and like wacky shit that's going on that maybe is outside of Beatrice's control, but again, besides the point. Because you could follow the very same story arc of saying that maybe Jessica was like hitting that age where she believed in magic, but now she's at the age where she's grown up enough that, you know, she's disillusioned with it, she doesn't think it's real anymore. But you could still weave a game board in some way that could, you know, she's closer to it than like Ava or Rosa, that if they went through these same phases, well, those phases are like 15 years in the past at least for them. Well, Jessica, this might only be like, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like, you know, not that many, like less than 10 years that since she had that same phase as Maria. She's only like 10, a little bit less than 10 years older than her, right? So There's another question about that it could make sense that you'd have someone that would try to weave in the aspect of both stories. But regardless. I see. In that case, Beato the player completely gave up on winning during the last game, so she died and vanished. Which means that if Beato thinks she has a chance of defeating Oni-chan again, she'll come back to life, right? Logically, that is true. It's the same for people, witches, and even gods. If they lose interest and concern, they can die at any time. And if they regain that interest... Okay, so that's interesting. We never knew about the second part of that. So let me... So just to read what I typed out, we knew about Witch's main death risk being boredom, but we thought that it was not a permanent, or we thought that it was a permanent state. However, according to Hanyu, or Feather Iron, as well, probably refer to her going forward, they can revive at any given time as well if they become interested again. Maybe it's better to say they go dormant, not that they really die, because, you know, at least by our definition, death is like an irreversible, it happens, you're cooked thing, right? But... However, though the concept of time does not exist in the world of gods, who can revive whenever they want, time shoots by like an arrow in the human world, and it's not so easy there. That's true. Skipping school for one day might not be a problem, but if you skip for 3 days in a row, it'll be really hard to convince yourself to go back. Ain't that the damn truth? And what if that stretched out for a month, a year, a decade? What if it lasted for 1,000 years like the world of witches? I see. If you skip for that long, it would mean your death as far as society is concerned. If you remain dead for that long, not only would you be unable to catch up on all you missed in the world at large, you'd also lose any motivation you might have had when you left. So even though you'd be alive, you could say that you died once. You would never again be able to regain the self you once were. It would never revive. So then the real question is, would you say that she is reviving as a different being? I'll call her... Fuck, do I want to call her Hanyu in my notes, or I'll call her Featherine? But, you know, if you know, you know. We'll leave it at that. Okay. I'll scroll down just so it shows up better on the notes. Huh. Okay. Beato lost any chance of hope or winning. Even though she knew this, she pretended not to and kept on fighting for many, many games. So Beato will not return. Her hopes were crushed. She spent all of that willpower that she might have used to regain the will to fight. Therefore, that Beatrice will never revive again. Okay. Aww. That Beato, who just sat around the whole time with empty eyes in the 5th game, must have been a corpse. She had managed to remain on the game board despite it all, but then even that corpse was wiped away. Okay, this follows. And now there's like a new Beatrice that's returned, but she's been so dead. If Beato had been the game master at the time instead of Lambda Delta, the game board itself would have vanished at that moment and everything would have ended. Come to think of it, Beato started to lose the will to fight back near the end of the 4th game. When Beato loses her will to fight, the world of this game disappears. However, the witches wanted to keep playing in the game board world, so Lambda Delta bound Beato in place with the curse of that shackle. And so then Battler took over, and now she's been given the ability to die, basically. But she's come back, but now she's kind of not the same as she was prior. She used that shackle to make sure that the game board wouldn't disappear, even if Beato did lose the will to fight. In chess, this would be the equivalent of removing the set time limit for each turn, making it endless. However, simply having the game endlessly pause on Beato's turn would cause the witches to die from their illness of boredom. That's why Lambda Delta took the position of Game Master. Starting then, Beato's existence was no longer one of the conditions necessary for the game to exist. That's probably why the shackles binding her to the game board were released. And that explains why she disappeared in the 5th game. I don't know if I buy that though, when they say like she'll never revive, because they gave like the red statement. I'll say that we learn... Sorry, there's gonna be a lot of note writing here. It's always really dense at the start. I think that was the statement that she said. Sorry, I'm gonna alt-tab and check. I think she said it was that Beatrice will never again revive. Will never revive again. Fuck! I guess the other thing too is we don't know how long. Like, we've only been present for a bunch of loops, but my thinking is that this was probably going on for like, it's like Higurashi, right? In Higurashi, we were only witness to what, like, however many loops, 7 or 8, but it's implied there was thousands, tens of thousands, you know? I think that's kind of the same thing they're saying, because there's no way that Beatrice would just get bored and be done, you know, by the events of the game. And it could make sense as to that's the only reason why Battler then became aware at the time that he did, because it's very much the same way like a witch that's gone, they don't know, that Battler sort of gained realization in that other world, took over his piece, right? He came back, but Beatrice had been playing that shit for like tens of thousands of loops, and she was just fucking zonked. She wanted out, she was done, she was tired. And so then she passed away basically at the end of the 5th game because she was finally released. I'm reading something. Sorry, my girlfriend's going to bed, let me just send a message. Okay. No more interruptions. But yeah, so I think that's like my basic understanding. I'm gonna say that... Okay. Okay, I think that's a fair assessment, sorry for that big pause. So, when Oni-chan managed to reach the truth, it was one game too late for him to tell Beato about it. The 5th game was a form of charity on Lambda Delta's part. She merely showed Battler some mercy as the Witch of Certainty, acknowledging his strong desire to reach the truth no matter what. How can you call that charity? It's just those fickle witches killing time. Let's get back to the point. So that means this weird Beato isn't the player Beato. She's just a piece Beato. Yes. And if that is so, you would expect her to turn out as the Beato everyone knows well. That should also be the kind of Beato the Battler wants. You mean... he wasn't satisfied with just a doll? When playing with dolls, one can project the personality they most desire onto the doll. However, since you are acting out their part, nothing unexpected can ever happen. You cannot hope for any unanticipated happiness. In the human world, there is nothing as boring as predictability. That's why, though a doll can become a person's best friend in the world, people eventually get bored and outgrow them. Oni-chan only wants the real Beato. He couldn't bear having a doll that he could only make act like Beato. A Beato born as Battler's piece would probably move exactly according to Battler's wishes. She is a piece, so that's only natural. Pieces move according to their players' directions, and they are incapable of moving in any other way. I see what it is Oni-chan wants. Then just who is this weird Beato? Battler might be trying to revive Beato in the truest sense. It is the never-dying dream held by the children of man. To create life, you just use the red to say that wasn't possible. That Beato has no chance of reviving. However, that doesn't mean that it is impossible to create Beato again. Have you forgotten? I believe that Burnt Castle herself revealed Beato's true form at the end of the first game. Now I remember. She said something about how Beato exists as an incarnation of the rules. Rules and information brought together ultimately took the form of the witch known as Beatrice. If that pattern is followed once more, the same Beatrice will be born again, and perhaps one could call that a resurrection. So would this be the equivalent of how you could say that Ava became the next Beatrice through the events of the third game by following, and that was why the Beatrice of the game board forced or urged everybody to complete the epitaph. I do think more and more that the perfect suicide theory, maybe suicide isn't the correct thing, but I think that's kind of what Beatrice wanted. She wanted to be able to be gone. Perhaps one could call that a resurrection. Okay, I'm gonna put this down. Sorry, there's a lot of note taking early on, I apologize for this. Okay, in other words, that weird Beato is like an egg of Beato, or else a chick. That interpretation is probably accurate. In short, this Beato is a chick that might become that Beato. And that means this pure and lovable kid will eventually grow into that screwed up, crazy witch. In other words, that Beato is a baby version of the Beato we all know. However, if we go by the same token that was just said, right? Beatrice couldn't have been revived if her vessel wasn't real, right? So then the question becomes, then, yeah, there is still, who's the vessel of Beatrice, I guess, is the actual thing. Because it could still be that that person is unaware that they are Beatrice. I don't know, there's some, I'm a little bit confused, I don't know if I'm totally understanding it. I think I get what they're saying, that it was Beatrice was an incarnation of the rules of the game board, which maybe explains why the epitaph was being pursued. The only thing that starts to not mesh in my head is that, they've kind of been wording this the entire game as though it's witches that have been moving the pieces on the game board, and that's how the things have favored out. But the Beatrice of the outside of the witch world, she doesn't give a fuck what happens in the game board, like they said. But the finding of her gold, that didn't abort the game, right? We know what happened in episode 3. So there has to be a greater condition that's outside of that. And now we know that Beatrice basically died and was resurrected into a new Beatrice that will basically form into... Let me put this down in the notes as well. New Beatrice at the start of episode 6 is like an egg of the old Beatrice and will eventually grow to become the same as the old one. I wonder if this has anything to do with vessels, meaning she was only able to be revived because she has a vessel that exists still. So it seems like they're saying, yeah, that like if you keep following the rules of the epitaph or whatever, you will necessitate it. Which then again almost sounds like she wants the game to be aborted, which is why she would say she wants the epitaph to be forced, because she wants to be freed. I don't know, the perfect suicide angle is starting to make more sense, but we'll see. I don't want to pause too much. I've been pausing so much to write notes. In other words, that Beato is like a baby version of the Beato we all know. So just like how no person is born evil, that newborn Beato isn't evil either. Even though she really is a different person, if you measure her by her basis, her soul, then maybe you really could call this a resurrection. The hardest magic, by the way. However, this reality can't possibly be easy to accept. Though she may be technically Beato herself, she is also without a doubt a different person. And that way she acts would make anyone feel as though something's out of place. How entertaining. Hearing you read aloud is far from boring. I wonder if you even really need someone to read aloud for you. It looks like you already know everything. I only reached that, though, because I am engaged in a conversation with you. That thought because I am engaged in a conversation with you. My thoughts are more numerous than the stars in the skies. I only appear to know everything to a child of man like you. However, without you here, I am nothing but a weak, sickly person without even the power to think. And that also could explain why she became the way that she became, and why Featherine would be looking for somebody else to replace who Rika was for her, because if Rika ascended to the level of being like a witch, then you have someone that then... Interesting. I think Angie and her have now developed the same relationship that Rika and Hanyu had in Higurashi. And now, because Rika had evolved into a witch and had abandoned her, she needs somebody else to still fill that void, because otherwise she's gonna die herself. She needs somebody else. She can't just exist alone. But if you just said that in the first place, I'd have agreed to read for you a lot more easily. My mood just happened to improve. Don't get an overswelled impression of yourself. I think of your life as nothing more than a leaf one may lose after using it as a bookmark. Please continue reading, is how I choose to interpret that, okay? Far from boring. You really do make an excellent Miko. Oh, Featherine's my goat. Featherine rocked back in her rocking chair and looked up at the ceiling, laughing as though the conversation itself was pleasant for her. Angie was slowly figuring out how to deal with this strange witch. This person was also bored. When a sick person has been in bed for a long time and gets too bored, they sometimes act in a rebellious way. On the other hand, they also get a little bored of being treated kindly all the time. She may want to be respected for her superiority, but it's probably more interesting for her when she's spoken to a little rudely. What a coincidence. That's exactly how I used to be. Anyway. From what we learned in the fourth game, there's no doubt that there was some kind of bad blood between Beato and Oni-chan in the past. Learning about this Beato might give us a key towards finding the truth. It does seem so. It has caught my interest as well. Let us read her tale too. Oh, sure. As you wish, my master. I'm assuming she said that in a very, sarcastic tone, just based on her face. Angie raised her hands like a conductor, and the bookshelves in the bizarre study responded. Once again, several books floated out and began to swirl around Angie. Fuck, we might not have much more time to call our shot on who we think. I'm still calling Jessica. But if it says Rosa, I'm also going to say I called Rosa, so that's all I'm letting. But I'm placing, my bet is entirely on that. On my roulette wheel of who Beatrice is, there's two colors. There's no green pocket. There's a black pocket and a red pocket. And the black pocket is Jessica and the red pocket is Rosa, except the Jessica has more color. It's not even. It's like a 70-30. But whatever, you know what I mean. It's the most unfair roulette wheel, okay? Kenzo's study in the room belonging to the master in the human world. So this study in the world of non-humans belonged to the master of the game board. Interesting. And was a place where he could look down upon the humans. Therefore, it was understandable that one might mistake the imposing, robe-clad man in the center of the study for Kenzo, if only for a second. It wasn't Kenzo. It was Badler, the one who had taken up the position of Game Master, and who had now become the new territory lord of this world. Around Badler was a swirl of glowing fragments, sparkling like the night sky. Oh, this song is going crazy. What the fuck? What song is this? Surrounding, okay. And on the floor was what appeared to be a red magic circle. To an outsider, it would have appeared to be nothing more than an incomprehensible geometric shape, but to Badler, who stood at its center, it was the outline for a new tale. A new line grew across the magic circle following Badler's gaze. Then, at the instant it connected with a complicated symbol, the entire magic circle flashed brightly. Dude, that song is fucking crazy. That was a great track for the small time I heard it. So, How does it look? It is splendid, my lord. The 6th game is complete. As Battler wiped his forehead and finally relaxed, Genji, who was standing behind him and watching over his every move, nodded deeply in response. I always thought being a game master meant you could make the tale however you want, but this is seriously harder than I thought it'd be. You must write up multiple tales and make their inner and outer sides of the story match, and yet you have displayed such skill. It is hard to believe that this is your first time. I believe in Erika will be satisfied with this game. Well, hopefully it matches that great detective's taste. Still, I've got to honestly respect Bieto now. I can hardly believe that she managed to create such complicated stories so easily. It was not easy. Beatrice spent a long time deliberating, and each time she created a tale, she would worry over various contradictions. She was constantly battling with logic errors. Logic errors? Like cannot compile. This is when the two sides of the tale do not meet, creating a contradiction. When this happens, it becomes a fatal violation of the rules known as a logic error, and the game board will immediately collapse and be destroyed. So they're having a description for how things don't logically follow. It is the greatest and worst form of error that the witch side can make, and one which must always be avoided. And Bieto got close to bumping into those several times in her games. She fought with them every time she created a game. I believe it grew even more difficult for her as you became a more effective opponent. So, do you think this game I've made is good enough to show Bieto? Yes, of course. Has Bieto still not woken up? Yeah, bro, he's trying to get the real one back. I still want to know what's going on with Golden Lamb Bieto. I don't know. It's been a while since her body is formed, or was formed as a personification of the rules. She's still not awake. After remaining silent for a while longer, Genji answered. She woke up 3 days ago. You were concentrating on the construction of the 6th game, so I decided to wait before telling you. My sincere apologies. Oh, really? Yeah, I'll bet she's still all drowsy after sleeping for so long. I really wanted to show her my game. No, it's more than that. I have to show her my game. I need to tell her that I've understood everything. Battler's face broke into a smile. There was no trace in his expression of the hatred he had once felt towards Bieto for murdering his family. In a way, that was the final mystery of the 5th game. Yes. When Battler reached the truth, there was a great change in his impression of Bieto. Does that mean it's fair to assume that there really was some kind of connection between Oni-chan and Bieto, that he had forgotten all about it? However, Battler suspected this in the 4th game and asked Bieto about it, and within the story, this was denied by the Red Truth. 6 years ago, no person called Beatrice existed for Battler. We can read this as saying that Bieto did not exist 6 years before, or it could simply mean that she had no connection to Battler at that time. However, either way, Battler did not visit Rokenjima at all for the next 6 years. It couldn't be that he forgot all about. It could just be that, again, like we said with the Battler swap, that likely happened. I said no person called Beatrice existed for Battler, because if he wasn't the actual Battler, if he was faux Battler, you know, that would explain why there was no connection between the two, why there was this sin. It makes the question wonder, well, but she was the one that confirmed that he wasn't Asumu's son, which is why it starts to get a little bit odd, because you would sit there and you would say, well, she should know that this Battler isn't the true Battler. But again, how much of that is a representation of the one that actually exists within the game board? Because that was a conversation on the game board, not the meta level thing. Because whenever we're talking about Battler in this case, we're not talking about true Battler, we're talking about this. There may have been some kind of connection between true Battler and Beatrice, but maybe not between our Battler because of the replacement. Did not exist 6 years before? No, that's probably not true. It could mean that she had no connection. That's probably more likely. Either way, Battler did not visit Rokenjima at all for the next 6 years. October 4th, 86 should have been the first time Beatrice and Oni-chan met. If so, why was there already some kind of bad blood between them? I don't have a clue what it means. That Ushirimiya Battler's sin, which Bieto questioned Battler about in the 4th game, might give us a clue. The result of that might have been Beatrice herself. The result? The result of Oni-chan's sin was Beatrice. So what they're saying is you created a villain, you know? In a weird way to think about this is when you have a breakup with a significant other and you hit the gym and you go crazy, that the death of the original Battler might have spurned the creation of Beatrice. And that then it was even more of a sin to the real, whoever Beatrice represents or who Beatrice is, that you basically have a person that's then come and is like sock puppeting as the person that she had this relationship with. And the sin of 6 years ago wasn't actually Battler dying, it was that this person, whoever we're playing as, has subsumed Battler's identity, you know? It almost sounds as though Oni-chan created the witch called Beatrice himself. Almost as though Beatrice was Battler's piece. Huh? 6 years earlier, Battler committed a sin. Because of that sin, people died. The killer was Beatrice. If you consider the possibility that everything is connected to Battler's sin 6 years before, then the one who created Beatrice was Battler himself. Yeah, that would follow, basically on what I just said as well. I thought it sounded almost as though she was Battler's piece. I don't get it. If Oni-chan sinned in some way, it must have been something much lighter than murder at the very least. If someone caused this huge massacre in retaliation for that, that's totally out of proportion. Beato killed our family. Dad, Mom, Oni-chan, everyone. I can't believe that Oni-chan's sin was anything deserving of that. The weight of the sin depends on the person measuring it. Even a sin so light that Battler might have forgotten could have been so serious to Beato that she hated him enough to massacre his whole family a full 6 years after the fact. Well, even I think that a bit excessive, and more importantly, if she were a person like that, I'd find it hard to accept that Battler would act so friendly towards her after discovering the truth. Because there had to be a misunderstanding, right? This is why I'm the two Battler theory, okay? I'm putting hella stock in it. Because there has to be some, like, there has to be some misaligned reason, and the reason why he would not be mad at Beatrice is that there could have been, like, a misunderstanding the whole time. It wasn't actually, like, a wronging, but a misunderstanding. I don't know, there's something funky going on. Definitely, I think it will have to do with the two Battler theory. We'll see. Featherine's observation was extremely interesting. In a past game, Beato said clearly that Oni-chan's sin 6 years before was the cause of this 2-day tragedy. I still don't know what kind of sin that was, however he figured it out at the end of the 5th game, and he even apologized to Beato. Exactly, and what would he have to do to apologize for? Even though she was the witch who had massacred his entire family in retaliation for his sin 6 years before, Battler apologized to her. Of course it was the player Battler who apologized, not the peace Battler whose family had been murdered over and over again. But even so, Battler must have remembered something at the end of the last game that made him feel like apologizing. Okay, I'm gonna put this down, this is important to note. Battler apologized at the end of episode 5 after realizing the true nature of everything. I think it's related to the two Battler theory, and that he realizes the massive pain / misunderstanding caused by him, and I'm going to put in brackets, likely to do to him subsuming the identity of the true Battler. And whoever Beatrice is, finding out, we'll say. The sin from 6 years before, does this mean that it's hidden somewhere in the tale so far? I have already formed a theory about it. Oh? Let me hear it. Heh, I can't tell you yet. I want to enjoy being the only one who knows the answer for a little while longer. Well then I guess I'm done reading for you. Well, we can't have that, can we? Have some patience and read a bit further. My theory is still nothing more than a guess. Once I'm certain of it, I'll tell you. Okay, my master. I actually do want to hear what comes next after all. Oni-chan and Beatrice. Just what kind of connection is there between them? Learning that will probably be the ultimate key to the truth of this world. After all, remembering that was what enabled him to reach that truth. I love this track too. Beatrice! Puidorian. Welcome, my lord. Beatrice is waiting for you. This way, please. This place was a villa set aside for Beatrice's use. It was a sacred site for her only, built so that she could spend her days without being affected by the outside world. My heart began to race. I'm so glad that she was able to revive, and that everything is okay. Beato is a personification of the rules. So even though she was destroyed once, it is possible for her to be reborn again. Battler had quickly succeeded in reviving Beato's body, but he had trouble summoning her soul back. Bad writing, come on. Probably just a typo, but he had trouble summoning her soul back. However, during the time he had spent immersed in the creation of the 6 games, she had woken up, and this had happened 3 days ago. Oh, there was also one other thing at the end of the theory stream that I forgot to mention. Or theory stream, like it was literally 2 hours ago. That I do still think the epitaph and the portrait and everything being put up had to do with Kinzo's will in some way. It's just too coincidental that we know he died sometime prior to the 85 conference and we're in 86, so at the very least he's been dead for a little bit over a year, probably 2. We know at the very start of the game that the poster of Beatrice, the portrait rather, and the epitaph were put up 2 years ago. I think that probably was in Kinzo's actual will to have it put forward, just as an aside. Now, who wrote the epitaph and everything, you know, besides the point, but... Battler let himself be led into the dining hall. The dining hall had been set up for his and Beato's use. It existed so that they could enjoy some black tea while discussing the truth, now that he had finally reached it in its entirety. I want to tell her. I want to tell Beato that I've found the truth. Battler couldn't hold back his excitement over this miracle he had been granted, that Beato was waiting for him in the dining hall to hear what he had to say. I also have an early prediction too that we're going to have to like fight against Battler to some degree. Because I think he's going to become so like entranced with the game board and maybe in love with the Beato that's outside of the game that he's not going to want to leave. Because that would necessitate the destruction of everything. And I think that we're going to bump up into that. It's going to be my early prediction, but... How is Beatrice? Same as usual. Is she in high spirits? Oh yes, she is in very high spirits now. She's been waiting for you all this time, my lord, oh yes. Is she in the dining hall? Is she eating or something? Ah, that's alright, it doesn't matter either way. Ho ho ho, you'll be surprised. Beatrice! When he swung open the doors to the dining hall, Battler was greeted by a wonderful sight. Though the food laid out on the table wasn't particularly sensational, it was arranged beautifully, and a champagne bottle stood there waiting. Then the person clad in that familiar dress with the beautiful golden hair bowed deeply in greeting. But Beatrice, you have my sincere gratitude for giving me this form. Come on, don't worry about that. I'm so glad. Beato. Battler rushed up to Beato and hugged her tightly, just to make sure her body wasn't just mist or an illusion. He looks different and I don't like it. I solved your riddle for you, but then, before I could tell you about it, you went and disappeared. I am right here. I will not disappear. It's okay, you can stop talking like that. I'm not going to ask you for anything in return. Anyway, I want to apologize, and I want to talk with you. I don't even know where I should start. You've done nothing that you need to apologize for, Father. I'm glad just to be of service to you. Ooh, I don't like this, Beatrice. Beato? I was born for your sake, Father. Please let me support you. And Father, congratulations on completing the 6th game. I told you, stop talking like that. It's totally creepy. Do you find this style of speech displeasing? Please forgive my rudeness. Well, I don't find it displeasing, but it's not like you. Also, it's interesting to say, on completing the 6th game, I know he said that he had just completed, like, making the 6th game, but I wonder if this is, like, actually a foreshadow, you know? I don't find it displeasing, but it's not like you. I guess I like the way you usually talk best. Beato smiled vaguely. To Battler, it probably looked as though they were both smiling over the same joke. However, Beato's smile was literally vague and uncertain. After all, she didn't know how she was supposed to talk. Anyway, Beato, just what kind of joke is this? Don't tell me that the great Beatrice decided to cook for me. When I heard that you had completed the 6th game, I wanted to see if I could prepare a modest reward to congratulate you. Ho ho ho. Beatrice really worked hard to make this. I didn't even need to lend a hand at all. No, I didn't. Why is Kumasawa here of all people? The food set on the table really was modest and inexpertly made. You could tell by looking at it that Beato, who wasn't particularly skilled with cooking, had given it her all when making it. However, signs of discomfort and irritation were beginning to appear on Battler's face. An illusion. What are you hiding? He's in Suramar, bro. What is this all about? Well, as she said, Beatrice decided that she would like to congratulate. Sweat was starting to show up on Kumasawa's forehead. She was also feeling uneasy. When he noticed, Battler realized that it wasn't just his imagination. Beato turned her back to Battler and stuck a corkscrew into the champagne bottle. Then she showed it to Battler. Father, congratulations on the completion of the 6th game. There's something like uncanny about how she looks. In the hopes that you will prove victorious over your longtime rival, Furuto Erika. Pop. When presented with a champagne bottle and a sound like that, anyone would think that the cork had been pulled out. However, it wasn't the cork. It was the bottom of the bottle. The high-quality champagne that Beato had procured splashed out all over the floor and her dress. Then the same sound repeated several more times. Each time, one of the plates of food on the table was knocked into the air. Father. Did you find the food displeasing? Who are you? I am Beatrice. I was born for your sake, Father. No. Huh? Who is this? This isn't Beato, and don't call me Father. What's going on here? What is this? Didn't I revive Beato? Genji, what's this all about? My apologies, but that is indeed Beatrice. Like hell it is. How is this supposed to be Beato? She's totally wrong, a fake. No, that is Beatrice. It is without a doubt Beatrice, who was born in accordance with the rules of the game board. No, this isn't anything like Beato. Beato would always talk in this weird way. She'd laugh rudely, and more and more. No, this is unquestionably Beatrice herself. Then why is she talking like that? Why is she calling me father? But Beatrice was only born a short while ago. It would be far too cruel to expect her to act as she once did so soon. Are you saying that her memory hasn't returned yet? My lord. This person is most certainly Beatrice herself. However, she is not the Beatrice you know so well. What are you talking about? I'm the game master, right? Why can't I revive Beato? Oh yes, she most certainly has revived. However, the old Beatrice had lived for 1,000 years. This Beatrice, on the other hand, has only born a short while ago. If she appears to be a different person, well, that just can't be helped. Then how can I revive that Beato? Her body is right here. How can I revive her soul? If she lives the same 1,000-year life again, she should become the same Beatrice she was before. So I'm supposed to wait 1,000 years? Okay, Illidan. A person's personality isn't decided solely by their birth. It can change drastically based on how they live and what they experience. There's no guarantee that she would even turn out the same way. Saying that presumably she would after that much time. Oh, my goat, she's back. Hachijo Toya, do you understand? Even though she is the same Beato, she is not the same. I get it. Even if you had two of the exact same person, they could change enormously depending on their upbringing. Yeah, where they were born in the world, you know, whatever. Even though they might both be the same human to start with, their upbringing could change them so much that they effectively become two completely different people. Usually we use the term person to refer to a person, not their personality. However, since humans recognize a person by their personality, they might as well be two different people from a human perspective. That's so true. If that tragedy 12 years ago hadn't happened, Missy here might have been a cute girl who could smile without looking weird. That's rude. I'm cute enough right now, thank you very much. I understand. If a personality is what makes a person in our eyes, you could say that a second personality is a different person entirely, even if it inhabits the same flesh body. At the very least, I'm a completely different person than I used to be 12 years ago. That's a lot of fucking clocks, bro. This reminds me of that one Mario Party 8 minigame, if anyone knows what I'm talking about, where it's like all the clocks and you have to like stop them at the set time or whatever, I think. It's in the intro of the game. And like the whole thing is it shows like a time on the clock and you have to like set the hands as quick as possible. You know, yeah, if you know, you know. And if my family had come home 12 years ago, then the Angie that resulted would surely be a completely different person from me. Even the same human can become different people. In fact, depending on their upbringing and endless possibilities, they can become an endless number of different people. So just because this is the same Beato, there's no guarantee at all that she'll be the Beato that Oni-chan knows so well. And on top of that, Beatrice is a witch who lived 1,000 years. A person can die and be reborn in the span of just 3 days. Is this like a Jesus reference? 1,000 years is just too long. Seems you're quite a skilled reader. For most of my readers, it would be necessary to devote several hundred pages to explaining how a single human can become different people depending on their upbringing and the passage of time. Don't underestimate your readers. We aren't just reading, we read and we think. If I give my work to 100 people to read, 90 will actually be able to. However, only 50 will actually understand what it means, and not even 20 will be capable of thinking beyond that. Yet all I am asking is that they chew before they swallow. Nothing more than that. Hehe. However, it seems that you are one of those precious 20 readers. That's why I invited you here, child of man. It was hard to actually like this Hachijo Toya person. However, though this forgery she had written was still in its first stages, it definitely felt as though it had something very similar to the tales in those message bottles. Speaking metaphorically, one might call it a scent. An indescribable stern atmosphere like a stuffy library. The Beatrice who wrote the message bottles and Hachijo Toya are different people, and yet this has the same scent as that tale. I see. This is why some of the curious witch hunters are so intensely devoted to her. Their keen sense of smell was able to sniff out that familiar scent. Very well then, please continue reading. There could be nothing more entertaining than watching your face as you glance over the words. That and speaking with you. I guess it's true that writers are always starving for opinions on their works, true? Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't think I have time to read all the way through this thick manuscript. More importantly, I came here to... But you have all the time in the world. Both the second hand and the pendulum on the ornate clock behind Hachijo had been moving the whole time. However, absolutely no time had passed for a while now. Only about 3 minutes had gone by since the time she had entered the room. It's a place beyond time, see? Time isn't something you have to worry about. Time everywhere will leave you alone until you've finished reading. Next page, Missy, next page. Hamakusa badgered me to turn the page, so I returned to the world of the tale once more. Why does her tail have the same scent as Beatrice's, I wonder? It has the same scent. The question would be, does she have a similar upbringing to Beatrice that she would be able to proxy for her? In the same way that if you were like a fraternal twin, or sorry, not fraternal, like an identical twin, you're not the same person, but you could probably proxy for that other person really, really well, looking at you, Mion, and Shion. And so when we talk about something like that, it makes me wonder if the reason why she can write in such a way that seems to be able to pass so well for Beatrice's work, that like, it just so perfectly encapsulates it, is that it comes from the same school of thought, you know? Is it because she actually reached the truth as she claims? Does this mean that anyone who knows the truth could create an endless number of message bottles? Is that what the cat box world is like? I see. Maybe she really is an endless witch herself. In fact, maybe anyone who knows the truth can become an endless witch, an endless tale created by endless witches. The 2 days starting on October 4th, 1986, where my family is being toyed with endlessly. I have to end it. I have to find a hint of the truth from within this story and end this endless tale. I don't want to say conflict. You could probably hear me go, endless tale, endless tale. What do you think, Beato? How's this 6th game I've made? Well, you're not the type to give me an honest compliment anyway, are you? You'd probably say something like, not bad for an incompetent fool like you. Hee hee hee, cackle cackle. Not bad for an incompetent fool like you. Heh. Now that I've seen what it's like to be a game master, I understand everything. You really had to work hard during each and every game. Creating a game is not such an easy thing. To think the day would come when we would both congratulate each other like this. Creating a game is not such an easy thing. To think the day would come when we would both congratulate each other like this. He's trying to make her go through the motions and it ain't working. All wrong. This isn't Beato. Battler slammed hard on the desk, but the piece Beato showed no reaction. After all, Battler hadn't ordered her to react. It was easy to revive that Beato as a piece. However, it would only move according to Battler's wishes. Having a conversation with it was no different from talking to himself. The Game Master could summon any kind of piece. He could move those pieces in any way he wanted, reigning as an absolute god. However, for that very reason, they were just pieces. That made it unbelievably lonely and sad. You created many kinds of furniture as well as several tales in the past. When I saw that, I was sure you were having a great time doing it. But that's wrong. You were unbelievably lonely. It must have been such a relief for you to have an opponent in me who could actually go against you. I'm painfully aware of that now. That weird, polite Beato. Good lord, how long did it say? She is you. I don't doubt that. The way you were 1,000 years ago. However, she is a separate person. The way she looks just like you is what I really can't get over. I can't stand it. However, she isn't a piece, so she can go against my will. Sure, unlike the piece you are, that Beato is much more alive. I acknowledge that. But it's all wrong. That isn't you. She's a completely separate person, like a long-lost little sister or something. And that's why I just can't accept her. As much as he hated this piece Beato, Battler felt an even stronger dislike for the chick Beato. Wait, sorry, let me... Okay. Even after a whole 1,000 years, she still wouldn't become the original Beato. Even if she were ordered to act like the original Beato, it would just be an imitation. This was a very similar but separate person, and definitely not Beato herself. Oh, the soul. Then in the previous game, Beato really did disappear for all eternity. Even after becoming the Game Master, there was no way to revive her. Laugh. Laugh at how pathetic I am. Cackle cackle. Yeah. Just give it a rest already. You're just an illusion who won't laugh unless I order it, and who can't even continue to laugh unless I keep on ordering it. Just disappear. Damn. Feels fucking bad, man. Okay, chapter 3, I think, True Feelings. I'm gonna get a drink real quick. I'll be right back. I just gotta go pee. I'll be right back. Smile. Actually, I'll wait until we get to a point where it pauses. Okay, now I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I don't know why my mic wasn't resetting there. That was weird. But I'm back. We're probably gonna do 1 or 2 more chapters. I'll decide depending on how long this one is. So we're on chapter 3, True Feelings. I forgot to put up a thing to say be right back, but it's okay. It's alright. Sorry, fix my headset. Okay. On Rokenjima, this day, or rather this time around, was the same as any other. The typhoon would be coming very soon. The clouds hadn't yet grown thick, but they were moving quickly. Oh, my goat. Okay, we need to do like a character tier list. I'm just afraid of being spoiled, so we'll probably wait till it's all over, but I'll do one after, maybe after this episode we'll do one. The only thing on Natsui's mind was the plan to cover up Kendo's absence this year as well. Crus appeared to have suffered a stomach ache from the stress and was resting in his room. Oh, the captain. We see his sprite for once. Jessica and Kumasawa had left in a boat to go shopping and greet the incoming relatives on Nijima. The servants had been busy since the early morning in preparations for the family conference, the greatest event of the year. Shannon and Kennen were getting the guest house ready. Shouldn't the guest rooms in the mansion be more than enough to hold the relatives? Good point. It is a pain to clean up here as well. I mentioned this earlier when I was talking about who I was suspicious of, and I'd said that I was suspicious of Shannon, and I am. But part of that also as well, it doesn't necessarily mean that she's like 100% an accomplice. I think she may have something to do with what's going on. She may be, you know, being led around by her nose by someone. But my whole point of that was to say as well that if there was someone that's blackmailing Natsuhi, right? And we look at the last episode with like who would have been able to know. I think the entire time, whoever Beatrice is has to have some aid of the servants. Whether the aid of the servants is coerced in the sense that Beatrice is like forcing them to do it, or rather... Sorry, I was trying to see if my pop filter was in the correct angling. I don't think it is. It needs to be angled a little bit back more. That if it's not coerced, in like what way she is helping or making these servants help her, right? We already know that Shannon is best friends with Jessica, right? So if I, you know, keep dialing in on that, you know, just all I'm gonna say. Good point. It is a pain to clean up here as well. God, my neck is sore. Let me crack my neck. Oh, that was loud. I don't know if that came through. Even so, I like cleaning the guest house. Yeah, it's nice and quiet without Madam and all the annoying servants. Whoa, 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 Kennen, whoa! Friendly fire, I guess you'd say, we're furniture, not servants. Shannon gave a non-committal smile as she performed a detailed examination of the guest room. Did we forget to clean anything? Do we need to restock anything? She diligently gave the room one final check over. You checked everything thoroughly last night too, didn't you? You really are dedicated. It's on days like this when you tend to get pranked if you're careless. You can never find important things when you need them, and things that were supposed to be closed turn out to be open. The other thing as well that's to be noted is the whole thing of the... Oops. The whole thing with like the ceiling mirror or whatever that Natsui has, and there's the point that in episode 2, when Shannon and Goda and all them are like running from Beatrice and they're being attacked, the fact that she knows about the mirror. Now... my understanding is, again, that's another thing that really hadn't been brought up to that point. But, you know, she is a one-winged servant, Natsui is the master of them, so, you know. You can never find important... Well, I think I already read that, who cares? That's because you're too careless. You don't pay attention while you work. I guess that's why you're helping me check. Thanks. There's nothing to thank me for. If you were a bit more alert, I wouldn't have to help at all. Hehehe. The truth is, you just want to be with me, right? You're such a kid. But that's not it at all. It's all because you've been so ecstatic about George lately. You're messing me up so much. I can't let you out of my sight or you're messing up so much. Hehe. Kennen, let's chat a bit. Uh-oh. We can't do that now. We're working. You keep making fun of me and George, but how is it going between you and Jessica? Nothing's going on in particular. If you have time to talk about that, let's just finish this. Kennen was, very obviously, trying to change the subject. So Shannon snuck up behind him and pushed him down onto the bed. held a knife to his throat. Why did you turn down Milady when she asked you to go with her to welcome the relatives? Because I have work to do. Also, I do want to mention that they do have the same colored gems. I know I brought this up at some point in the past, but... Liar. You don't actually have any work at all. Shannon and Cannon had switched roles. Normally Cannon was the one in control, but when it came to romance, it was the opposite. As Shannon had said, Jessica and Cannon were supposed to have been the ones to go greet the relatives at the Nijima harbor. However, Cannon had suddenly claimed that he had work to do, so Kumasawa had gone instead. Cannon didn't have any work to do. Shannon knew this. The lady told me, despite everything that happened after the cultural festival, her feelings for you haven't changed. Even though I'm furniture. Okay, so this is good to note that, Shannon tells Cannon that Jessica still loves him despite his rejection, okay? That's right. And I'm furniture too. And yet you're in love with a human. Even though that's never going to be possible. You think so? Maybe thinking that way is what makes us furniture. I don't have any special feelings for Milady Jessica. I only think of her as the daughter of the family we serve. Really? Really? What? You know, there is a chance that George will propose to me tonight. Shannon wore an incredibly peaceful smile on her face, but Cannon could tell that there was no way she'd let him change the subject. Cannon realized that she must have made him help out here in the guest house in order to talk to him about this, and he clicked his tongue softly. You really think you can marry a human even though you're furniture? I think I can. That's impossible. Why? That dream future that George has imagined for you two is something you can never give him. Well, we aren't humans. We're furniture, inferior to them. George only thinks that you're human. Well, that is true, but I'm impressed that you've managed to trick him for this long. Do you really think you can keep tricking him like that forever, even though you still haven't been able to tell him that you're furniture? Being furniture or being human has nothing to do with this. I believe that George will accept all of me. And yet you don't have the courage to check and make sure. You know, I'm planning on saying yes. As Shannon looked up at the ceiling, she spoke of the imagined future that she and George would create. Though some anxiety over the future appeared on her face, so did joy from discovering what it was like to live with love. As Cannon watched this vivid dream he was being shown, he knew that none of his words would reach Shannon anymore. You can just do what you want. Once you've said something, you're incredibly stubborn. Yep. I want to live my life my own way. Or want to live life my own way. I've decided to stop worrying about who's furniture and who's a human. Cannon walked over to the window silently. He saw the rose garden filled with boring gray flowers in bloom. He understood that Shannon was acting above her place, and he knew that her tale had no chance of a happy ending. However, he also knew that now Shannon had made her decision, no words of his could change her mind. In that case, it doesn't matter what I say. If I tell you to stop, you won't listen. If I tell you to do what you want, you'll do what you want. Why are you talking to me about this? It's not like you care what my response is. What I want to know is how you feel about Milady. I have nothing to do with the two of you. Do you really feel absolutely nothing for Milady? No, I don't. As I keep telling you. Liar. Why do you think that's a lie? I know. I'm your big sister. You don't know. You can't know what I'm feeling. God, he's so edgy. I do. I know everything about you, Cannon. If you really do know, then why are you asking? Your head and heart are already full with your feelings for George, and that single-hearted devotion is what I love about you. That's why I'm rooting for you in the only way I can. You know that. Otherwise, even I would have loved to fall for Milady. Cannon finally turned to face her, honestly and openly telling her his real emotions. That was what Shannon had wanted to hear, and having heard it, she closed in even further on Cannon's true feelings. No, you can't word it that way. I won't let you. Then what do you want from me? What am I supposed to say? Don't try to dodge by saying I would have loved to fall for her. All you need to do is honestly tell me what you really feel. Milady is too dazzling for me. The way she lives is blinding like the sun. That's what I love about her. I was so happy when Milady stretched out her hand and asked me to walk with her. No, I still am happy. You love her, don't you? Yes, I do. I love Milady. And finally, Jessica didn't actually go on the trip. She's right behind the door. Canon, woo! Finally, Canon confessed his feelings in their entirety. In fact, by saying it aloud, he finally understood how he truly felt. As passionate tears welled up in his eyes, Canon finally accepted it. He couldn't stop the tears from dripping down his face. Milady was exactly like me, locked up on Rokenjima and living without any hope at all. Okay, a little bit of a... You're helping me theorize too close to the sun there. And yet she was able to light her own path and create her own fate. She was so dazzling that I envied her. I felt as though if I could be with her, I could find my true self instead of the pitiful person I am now. When you turned down Milady's confession, were you sad? I was. I never realized that lying to yourself could be so sad, so painful, so excruciating. And I just couldn't forgive myself for hurting Milady with that lie. I believe that I didn't have any right to fall in love ever again. But you do. The right to love is something only you can give yourself. Being furniture or not has nothing to do with it. If you tell yourself no, then it'll never happen. You mustn't think that way. That's why I gave myself, impudent furniture that I am, the right to fall in love. And you have it too. The right to fall in love? Yes. If you can't give it to yourself, then I will. Thank you. I feel as though I can finally see the sea. I'm certain. Tonight, George will propose to me. When he does, I will accept. And I intend to leave this island and start a new life in a new world. If that's the path that you've chosen, then I have no say in that matter. I'll leave this island and I'll never return again. It will mean saying farewell to you, Canon. You're right. We won't see each other again, will we? If you do love Milady from the bottom of your heart, and if you can honestly say that your feelings are at least as strong as the ones I have for George, then you and I need to settle this. Nay, son. This way is best for both of us. Don't give up on your feelings on account of me. Even though my selfishness might keep you from your happiness, I'm fully aware of it. My happiness is hurting you as well. We have no choice but to hurt each other. As she said this, Shannon turned her back to Canon. As Canon watched Shannon from behind, he was struck by her strength, and the sisterly love she showed in still thinking of him despite everything. Nay, son. Living with you made me happy. Me too. I wouldn't have lasted this long without you. And that's why I was able to meet George. Yeah, and I wouldn't have realized how dazzling Milady is if it weren't for you. I won't abandon my emotions. I'll focus only on my feelings and ignore everything else. And I won't look away when I trample over your heart. Me too. I won't use you as an excuse to hide the way I really feel. Whether my love bears fruit or yours does, let's each agree to celebrate the other. Yes, I promise. And if I win, I will love Milady and treasure you. Thank you. But if I win, I'll forget you in this island and leave this place forever. Kind of based. Holy shit. Yes. Whichever of us wins, that person will pursue their love with all they've got. Even if they know that love will be unrequited. Yes. After all, we are furniture. No more. I knew you were going to say that. Come on. Easy. Flashbang. The boat carrying the relatives docked at Rokenjima's harbor. They left the boat one by one, making fun of Battler. Goto wasn't the only one to greet them. Canon was there too. Been quite some time, everyone. Allow me to welcome you to Rokenjima. I hope that your long journey went smoothly. Welcome to Rokenjima. You can hear the seagulls, by the way. Ah, good. Goto complimented Canon in a whisper. Canon ignored this, looking just a little sour, and continued to greet the incoming relatives. This is your first time meeting Goto and Canon, isn't it, Battler? It's my first time meeting Battler too. Hee. Goto's a splendid chef. He's the only reason anyone ever want to come to this island. Also, weird thing to say from Maria, by the way. I am most honored. Battler, I do hope that you look forward to your meals during your stay. I can't wait. I'll be looking forward to it. Good to see you again, Canon. You seem to be in high spirits today. That's great. You think so? Oh yes, your face is looking brighter today. I can't tell if it's your complexion or if your gaze feels a bit more gallant. It must be a growing phase. That's how a boy becomes a man. You usually look as though you're about to pass out from anemia. You're a bit different today. You've got some vigor. A boy can change a lot in just 3 days. I guess this means even Cannon's getting a bit more manly. We aren't making fun of you, okay? We're all complimenting you. Hee hee. Cannon had sworn that starting today, he would start changing the way he lived bit by bit. However, he had only meant to change within himself, and he hadn't expected that it would show on the outside. He was a bit shocked to hear that his expression had changed so much. The people had apparently noticed as soon as he opened his mouth. No. Maybe the real surprise should have been that his normal expression looked so incredibly sullen in comparison. Goto led the way up to the guest house. Cannon brought up the rear, helping to carry some of Kumasawa's shopping. Does my face really look that bright today? Ho ho ho. It looks that way to me as well. Did something good happen? Hee 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 hee. Even Kumasawa was saying it. Cannon, unable to see what his own face looked like, hung his head in embarrassment. Sorry, I just had like a weird thought enter my head about a theory. But when they reached the rose garden, they could see the others entering the guest house. Then he saw Jessica running towards him from there. Is even Milady Jessica going to say that I'm in a good mood today? Cannon hung his head even deeper. And so, almost as though he couldn't control himself, Cannon spoke first. Do I really look that different? Huh? Well, you know. You aren't usually the type to come out and say hello of your own accord. That's probably why everyone was surprised. Good lord, that fucking pained grin. I apologize for not going with you earlier, milady. Huh? Oh, don't worry about that. I'm the one who's sorry for asking you to come all the way out to Nijima with me just to meet everyone. I know how busy you must be today. I didn't have anything in particular to do. You were just so dazzling that I couldn't bear to be with you. I was just weak. Jessica faltered, uncertain what Cannon was talking about. However, she realized that this was something too important to be laughed off. Did something happen, Cannon? Shannon says she's going to get married. I see. So George is going to propose this year. Jessica thought that this change in Cannon's appearance was probably caused by a change in his state of mind. She thought that he was sad that he and Shannon would be soon parting ways. Cannon realized that Jessica was probably thinking this, so he spoke to her clearly and honestly, because he wanted her to know. I've decided that if Nae-san ever quit, I would stop working here as well. I know. So are you gonna quit too? I'm not sure anymore. I feel that if I quit, I might again lose sight of something that your dazzling sunlight revealed to me. Jessica was stunned, unable to understand what he was saying. However, she did realize that he was trying to tell her something important, and so she was able to accept that his next words were neither a lie nor a joke. Milady Jessica, I love you. I love you too. You live your life like the sun, and I want to try walking that path alongside you. I have the feeling that with you, I'd be able to get away from the part of myself that regarded me with contempt and called me furniture. You weren't furniture, Cannon, and you weren't born just so you could become a servant. A boy your age should have the right to enjoy life much, much more. I'm the one who's dazzled. You're so dazzling I can hardly see. These are my genuine feelings. I'm sorry for trying to hide them for so long. I apologize for hurting you on that day in my cowardice. That's okay. Just hearing you say that, I know I'm getting emotional. I don't even really like Cannon that much. Just hearing you say that makes me happy. So, in order that I can continue to be with you, I plan to stop being furniture. I ask that you give me some time to do that. Please forgive this last bit of weakness. There's nothing weak about you. You've shown me. You've shown me incredible courage by saying you want to change yourself from the way you used to be. So I'll support you until the end, and I won't rush you until you're ready. If I'm the sun lighting your path, that's because I wanted to shine more brightly than anyone else so that you'd look only at me. Without you, I'd never have become like the sun. So I'll wait, as long as needed. Big mistake, pal. Big mistake, okay? I'm not saying you should wait, but I'm saying, you know what, you might want to really consider it. Thank you, milady. I don't want to be milady to you anymore. May I call you by your name? Sure. Oh, but only when we're alone, okay? Otherwise, it might make things difficult for you. Good point. Nae-san and George are doing the same, it seems. Oh, that's kind of nice to see Cannon's model, like, smiling. I don't think we've ever seen it a single time. If Shannon hadn't told you about the engagement, you wouldn't have said what you said just now, right? That's a fucking gut punch. Cannon hung his head at a loss for words for some time, but it was true. If Shannon hadn't told him about the engagement, he probably wouldn't have been having this conversation at this moment. Sorry, I was taking a drink. No, I wouldn't. Her words allowed me to think seriously. Come on. You heard about Shannon and you wanted to see what love felt like yourself, right? Yes. That's a pretty straight answer. Well, when I watched those two, I was pretty envious myself. In truth, the real reason was different for both of them. They had been shown the courage that was needed to confess to the one they loved. This was the reason for both Canon and Jessica. So, what should I call you? Are we gonna find Canon's real name? Just Jessica would be nice. Just saying it like that would be a bit embarrassing. Then you can use San, at least at first. Why not try it out? Come on. Jessica. San. Yeah, that'll do it for now. And I'd like to call you by your name, Canon. You have a real name besides Canon, don't you? I'll bet it has Ka in it like Canon does. What could it be? My name is Yoshia. Okay, finally. That did not have a Ka in it, unless it did in the Japanese and like the kanji. But as far as the English, like the romanization of that, brother, I'm not seeing no K. Okay, it does, yeah, it does. I was gonna say, my brother in Christ, there's no Ka in that. Is Yoshia. How do you write it? Jessica tried tracing out various characters on the palm of her hand, then Canon used his own finger to write out his name on her hand. Like this. Yoshia. So, you're Yoshia. Yeah, that's a great name. Totally better than my weird name. That's not true. Your name Jessica is just as... Hey, say that again? Huh? Your name Jessica is... One more time. Your name Jessica is just as... is something wrong? It's nothing. Thanks. Yoshia. The red flowers of the rose garden. I mean, okay, man, maybe I'm colorblind. That shit ain't red, bro. That's pink. But that's like pink red. Of the rose garden seemed to celebrate the two lovers whose feelings had finally connected. The scene was watched by one not human who gazed out quietly from beneath the rose garden arbor. Are we still gonna have long-haired Beatrice in this world? Oh, nope. So maybe she actually is gone. Come to think of it, those two had never called each other by their names until now. Jessica hadn't known Canon's true name. Canon hadn't called Jessica by her name. By calling someone by their name, people acknowledge the worth of that person's soul. That is why names are sacred. Receiving permission to speak one means that your soul has been acknowledged. Is that why Father wants me to call him by his name? No. That's probably wrong. When Father sees me, it reminds him of that other me, the past me. And I'm sure that me called Father by his name. However, that probably doesn't mean Father would be happy to hear me call him by his name. After all, I am me, and not the Beatrice my father knows well. What can I do to help Father? How can I be useful to him? That's the only reason I was born. Hanging her head, Beatrice sat all alone in the golden lens arbor that was next to the rose garden. The scene was watched by the Witch of Theatergoing and her Miko as they sat across from each other. Poor kid. I never thought I'd see you feel compassion for Beato. I'd be too cruel to call this Beato and the former Beato the same person. They're completely different people. It may be that, by the rules, this Beato is the Beato. However, saying that would be horribly unfair to her. Battler must be very depressed to have revived his former adversary and have things end up this way. I can sort of understand Oni-chan's despair. However, I can understand how this child feels as well. No person can become a replacement for another. Not even the past version of themselves. Compared to the young boy and girl who had found new versions of themselves and called each other by their true names, this witch looked very feeble. The witch knew that she was an illusion created in the image of the person she once was. And she also knew that it would only hurt Battler to try and pretend to be that person. And even so, this Beato wants to be useful to Battler. How admirable. Is that the purpose of the witch known as Beatrice? That is what she claims. She says that she was created to be of service to Battler, so the Beato who was born for Oni-chan's sake eventually commits a serial murder, and drags Oni-chan into a bizarre game that she calls eternal torture? I don't get it. Character development. I believe you also understand that one can become a different person over 1,000 years. At the very least, Beatrice was once a pure creature who was born for Battler's sake, but she was twisted over time. It is also very clear that, in her current feeble state, she does not possess any of the courage or the motivation needed to bring about those horrifying serial murders. If so, that means the sinister witch we all know must have changed during the 1,000 years since her birth. We keep getting this 1,000 years business, but I get the feeling that those words are just a metaphor for a really long time in the world of witches. As you get closer to the world of gods, the concept of time becomes increasingly vague. 6 years can become 1,000, and 1,000 can be nothing more than a quick nap. One can fit an eternity long enough to be deserving of the title 100-year-old witch in a mere 2 weeks. In other words, the pure Beato transformed into the cruel Beato during those 6 years that could be called 1,000, okay. So this is like, I don't know why this is the first analogy that came to my mind. It's like playing Minecraft, and when you go into the nether, that like every block in the nether is 8 blocks in the real world, or, yeah. So, you know, it's like the same kind of vibe here where the time doesn't map on the exact same, so. The real 6 worlds time that passed since Beatrice's creation from Battler's sin is the equivalent of 1,000 to the, I'm writing this in the notes, to the original Beatrice. And during the time of Battler's absence from the family conference, it caused her to become the twisted one that we came to know from the very innocent one we see before us. Cooked on that note. So does that mean something bad happened during those 6 years that made her hate Oni-chan? That doesn't make sense. During those 6 years, Oni-chan not only stayed away from Rokenjima, he even stopped using the Ushirimiya name. Oni-chan had nothing to do with her change. Her hatred must be totally misguided. She could be a child and misunderstands, you never know. They always talk about how she acts so childlike. Oh, so this is where you were. Shall I make you some black tea? Kumasawa, aka Virgilia. There's something I'd like to know. Oh ho ho. Very well, what is it? My name is Beatrice. Isn't it? Yes, that is correct. You are Beatrice, my lady. However, the Beatrice that Father talks about isn't me. Well, I think Father wanted me to be that person, but no matter how much I look like her, I'm a different person. I think that might be why he's disappointed in me. That isn't true. You are you, Beatrice herself. You've merely lost your memory of the past after being newly reborn. Even without your memory, you are still Beatrice. You are the same person whom the Master loves. So then, how can I regain those memories? Well. Beato looked at Kumasawa with hopeful eyes, as though praying that she would tell her the way. Kumasawa averted her gaze unhelpfully, as though trying to say that she would if only such a way existed. If I can't regain them, can you at least tell me what kind of person the Beatrice Father loved was? That is something I can tell you, but I was born for Father's sake, so I want to become the Golden Witch Beatrice that Father desires. But Beatrice, I can't use magic. But if the Witch Father desires could use it, then I will learn. I want to become the witch he desires. That's the only way I can repay Father for creating me. Turn into Virgilia already, bro. That's admirable. Without the 1,000 years gone wrong, she really is an incredible kid. A chick of a witch. Very interesting. I've taken a liking to her, Angie. I shall allow this chick to make use of my study. Let us open the door which leads back to the world of the witches. So you're going to make her read aloud the stories about her previous self? Yes, I want to know too. The tale of how the Golden Witch Beatrice was created. Very well, if you wish it. Then let us open the door once again. Kumasawa. A spray of gold welled up around them. It was a cloud of gold butterflies. Hey, my goat, welcome back. With a golden flash, the form of the old lady transformed into that of a witch in a dress. You must choose the path that you are to walk down. Let us call it a path of roses. The beautifully blooming roses may celebrate you, and they may torment you with their thorns. But even so, it is a path that you once walked down. You may pass through the same 1,000 years. You may pass through a different 1,000 years. If you wish, you may even return back the way you came. We'll move on forward. I don't want to spend 1,000 years in this garden drinking tea. I wonder if there's going to be any, relation to the fact about Kinza trapping her. And then when Rosa killed her. Or, well, not actually, but, she died with Rosa, you know? Again, like I said, I already have massive bets. I'm betting the whole house that it's Rosa or Jessica. It's one of those two. It's gotta be. It's gotta be! I, Beatrice, was born for father's sake. So I want to live for father's sake. Please, tell me about the Golden Witch. And you have to remember there's, the weird meta-narrative about how Featherine is actually, authoring these stories as they are told. So it's weird because I think the way to, understand the connection in this chapter is that Featherine is, observing this story. And then the real-world correlation is, the story that was written by, Hachijo. It was Hachijo Toya, right? I think it was Hachijo? Yeah. So, you know. That's, the correlation between... There's, a manuscript that Hachijo has written that is probably pulled from the observations of Featherine, since it is, Vessel in person, if that makes sense, if I'm understanding. But that's why when Featherine said, let's open the door to her, and then in the story, the door opens to her, it's because the story was kind of already written. Because I think... The real-world example is us reading the story, but we are kind of following through the observation, as the story was written, I guess, if that makes sense. Communicating Beatrice's unbending determination to the brilliant heavens. At that moment, a brilliant light covered the two of them, and before they knew it, they were in a strange study. There sat the great old witch who was the master of these archives, along with her Miko. Virgilia gave a deep and elegant bow. Is this going to be Virgilia's master? Is this how we're going to learn about the whole endless memes? It is the greatest of honors to be in your presence, Lady Featherine Augustus Aurora, the majestic witch of theater-going, drama, and spectating. Raise your head, child of man. I shall give that child the privilege of browsing my archives as she pleases for a time. Angie, my Miko, see that she has no trouble. Sure, as you wish, my master. You could just say that you want her to see the story, you know. Miko, of the Witch of Theatergoing, I leave Beatrice in your care. Pleased to meet you. Oof. Interesting, because this means Angie can develop some kind of relationship, even though Beatrice was the person that she, hates the most. The Beatrice you're trying to become was suffering from something. At the very least, you've been released from that for now. Will you really go on a journey to regain those shackles? Yes. I want to become the Golden Witch. That is the reason I was born. In order that her journey through purgatory may be a pleasant one, and that she may be granted protection as she travels, I ask your assistance by the name of the Endless and Finite Witch, Publius Virgilia Maro. Huh? Let it be known that as the Miko of the Witch of Theatergoing, and as the Endless Witch and Apprentice Witch of Resurrection, I, Angie Beatrice, do accede to your request and all that stuff. Featherine snorted. Because she just doesn't know all the... So your name is also Beatrice? Yes. I know a lot about you. Please teach me. What kind of person was I? Also, it's very interesting, too, that in a weird way, Battler's understanding of the game comes from understanding the trauma, which in the way that the 6th game is laid out is in Beatrice herself being reborn and rediscovering her trauma, you know? Sure. And I want you to teach me, why did you become the person you were? In this archive, the fragments showing the tales of all your games up until now are stored as books. By reading them, you should be able to learn everything that has happened before now. By reading them, can I become the Golden Witch? To become the Golden Witch, one must solve the Epitaph of the Gold, and this trial cannot be skipped, not even by Beatrice herself. I'll do my best, so please let me read the books in this archive. So that's a really interesting thing to wonder, is if, do you think 6 years prior, the Beatrice... Well, she couldn't have, because the Epitaph was only posted 2 years prior. Could the Beatrice have solved the gold prior to Battler arriving, which made her Beatrice, which would make sense as if, the title passed over. As worthy of admiration as ever, I have no idea why you want to go back to being like that so much. I don't know what I was like then, but if that me can be of use to Father, that is what I want to become. Angie sighed resignedly. She had no words with which to stop this girl from following her noble sense of purpose. After all, Angie was the Miko of the Witch of Theatergoing. She could do nothing except watch over the stage. Yes, they weren't actually interfering with the play. This was just a bit of directing, to shine the spotlight onto the tale of Beato's past. Even this was nothing more than the Witch of Theatergoing watching a play. If you read, you will learn what kind of person that old Beatrice was. However, you must decide what you will take from that experience. You are free to stay in the archive or leave the archive, or even return to the archive again later. In compensation, I will watch your play. Watch my play. It means you can do whatever you want. Thank you very much, She likes it when you call her Featherine. Thank you very much, Featherine. After being welcomed in by Featherine, Beato set out on a journey to discover herself. I guess it could be Featherin as well. I want to hear what they call it in Japanese. I've been saying Featherine because that's how you would probably say it in English, but it could be Featherin. Although I'm still going to call her Featherine, so, you know, tough shit, deal with it. Oh wait, I didn't turn the voices on there. Depending on what the next chapter is, if the next chapter is going to kick off into the past of Beatrice, I'll probably call the stream. If it's going to be an unrelated chapter, we will continue, just as an aside. I want to hear... Featherine? Nope, she says it the same way I was saying it. Well, Featherine, a little bit different pronunciation, but whatever, it's close enough. Tough shit, you have a problem? I played all of Higurashi and called her Rena instead of Rena, okay? Tough shit, you deal with it. The tale connected the old tale with the new one. It wove them together. The 1,000-year-old tale about her returned to its starting point, becoming a snake eating its own tail, an Ouroboros. The ring of that snake began slowly, bit by bit, to turn into the shape of a small island floating on the sea. That island was Rokenjima. The 1,000 years of the witch born on this island were tied to this island. Was it 1,000 years or just 6? Or did this tale start even further back into the past? Beatrice went out on a journey to find herself. Oh, I love thunder. The wind had been strengthening since a while back. The breaking waves had grown fierce. The ferry boats probably wouldn't be coming for a while now. The crashing thunder told that the island had been sealed off from the outside world. A thick rain poured down, mocking the fools outdoors who had to rush pathetically to find shelter. No longer would anyone be able to leave this island, and no longer would anyone be able to reach this island. No one unless blessed with a miracle. Okay, Erika, pull up. There was another flash of lightning. The retinas of all who saw it were filled with white. As that white faded away, an eerie silhouette pulled itself up at the raging water's edge. As though suddenly remembering, it coughed violently several times, filthily spitting out the seawater that had filled its stomach. And then, tearing apart the velcro over her life jacket, she cast off the reason she had been able to float here without so much as a thank you. Welcomed in by a storm, same as always. Very good. And now you and I are going to have some fun, Battler. That's the end of the chapter, I assume. So we'll see here. Just because, like, I want to keep it all, like, contiguous. I don't want to just, like, start with, like, oh, let's learn about Beatrice's past, and then it's like, oh, we're done. The annoying guess. Okay. We'll read this chapter. And if there's stuff tossed in, then hey, tough shit, I guess. We're gonna find the whole story, but The news about the drifter, Furuto Erika, quickly spread across Rokenjima. Erika was politely entertained, and it was decided that she would be treated as a guest until the typhoon passed. In the dining hall, Goda's wonderful dinner had ended, and everyone was relaxing and enjoying some time after dinner coffee and cheese. Apparently, Battler was a bit relieved that Erika had come and turned into a good scapegoat. It drove away some of the attention he'd been getting piled on him for finally coming back after 6 years. And here's this fucking face that I really didn't want to see again. Okay. In fact, she turned out to be very talkative. When the conversation turned to a sophisticated discussion of the mystery genre, even the adults were drawn in. She was apparently so well versed that even Nanjo, who had a vast knowledge of the subject, was impressed. Ah, good point. A strange family in a western mansion on an isolated island during a storm. Now that we have a detective stopping by to take shelter from the rain, we've got all the major factors lined up. Have no fear. No matter how difficult the crime, I will solve it. That's a detective's job. What if someone just killed her, you know? How reassuring. In fact, I would quite enjoy it if some kind of bizarre incident were to— Excuse me? I just hope I don't have to play the part of the victim. Don't be so imprudent, dear. Well, the history of the human mystery genre is only about a century old. Its tricks and ideas are limited to a few recycled patterns, so there's nothing left to show. No matter what kind of impossible crimes or locked room murders might occur, it'll be nothing more than one of the same classes of tricks dressed up to look like something new. The only reason mysteries still make for popular books today is because self-proclaimed fans, who work off piece-together knowledge and who have hardly read any of the classics, mistake classic tricks they didn't know about for something new and surprising through lack of proper study. Everyone couldn't help but gape at this imposing claim. If an age critic had said it, that would have been one thing, but it showed incredible boldness for a young person like her to state that so strongly. Mystery is a genre that ended a half-century ago, at least as far as I'm concerned. However, thanks to the countless ignorant fools, I get to play my part as detective. Hehehehehe. By that argument, romance was perfected back in Shakespeare's time, and anything after that isn't worth reading. It's a good point. Then I suppose that so long as you read Romeo and Juliet, you essentially understand all of romance, wouldn't you say? Nah, that's ridiculous. Books aren't a competition. It's not about who's read the most. But boasting that you've read all you ever need to read is just as wrong-headed. Just reading classics of the past and never anything new is being overly nostalgic, don't you think? That sounds to me like an excuse of an old person who's too lazy to read anything. That's fair. Seems I need to read at least as much as you before I'll be able to beat you in an argument. Me? I don't read. She's remembering the prior game. Battler chuckled, but Erika knew from the previous game that Battler was actually quite an avid reader, so his words felt like more of a challenge. If you're so confident in your reasoning abilities, you must be really good at quizzes and puzzles, right? Wolf and Sheep's puzzle, yeah. Oh right, Maria, didn't you bring a quiz book or something? Ooh, brought it. Picking out that Erika's arrogant statement had made the atmosphere a little tense. George smoothly changed the subject. By now it was more than clear that she wasn't the charming guest she had appeared to be. Maria pulled out a book out of her bag that had quizzes and puzzles written in it and started posing them to everyone. It might have looked as though it would become a peaceful quiz party, but of course, that wasn't what happened. In credit to all her big talking, Erika managed an impressive ratio of correct and immediate answers. Erika took complete control. Her bragging began to escalate more and more. I think the one thing that we're going to find with Rika in this, or Erika I should say rather, anytime the game starts to work outside the bounds of the Decalogue, she like falters and anything that is not conceivable to her instantly bunks her. And I know that's sort of like a no shit, anything that's not conceivable to anybody you wouldn't be able to solve. But I think the ability is more that she has such a constrained way of thinking. She has the inability to solve things that are beyond her, whereas someone else might be able to improve and like solve things that are beyond themselves. She can't. And that's kind of shown in the last episode when she just like kind of imploded and got kind of BTFO'd. But George slightly regretted the choice he had made when changing the subject. "106 matches. No need to even write a tournament chart for it." The question, how many matches would you need for a tournament with 107 teams, was answered instantly by Erika. This is less of a puzzle than it is a test of knowledge. There's a formula which shows that the number of matches is always the same number of teams minus 1. Well, if you just look at the examples showing 3 matches for 4 teams and 7 matches for 8, it should be easy to figure out that pattern. Ugh, Erika, that's awesome. Erika, right? Say it. Okay, because the honorific Erika One-chan, that's awesome. really impressive. So you don't call yourself a detective for nothing. I couldn't very well act the part of the detective if I was incapable of handling puzzles of this sort. Incredible. I'm sure you'll be able to become a real detective in the future. Well, I'm pretty sure I already am one. The cousins all thought about the answers to the questions, but Erika always answered first. Rosa thought that it was a bit rude for Erika to say the answers out loud while people were thinking instead of keeping them to herself. You know what, Rosa? I agree. But since Erika was a guest, Rosa decided against mentioning it. No, you know what, Rosa? Talk your shit. In truth, Erika was perfectly aware of this when she answered the questions instantly. Each time she would grin, she wants to snatch it away from other people. As I was saying, is it really taking you all this long to solve such an easy problem? Because she doesn't actually care about the mystery, right? There's a lot of mystery readers who care about unraveling the mystery. She doesn't care about unraveling the mystery, she cares about being superior, right? That's my understanding of her, at least. Since you're a great detective, you don't really need to take this so seriously, right? You're right. Even though these are just childish questions, I've been taking them a bit too seriously. I'll take more care. So let's hear the next question, please. Alright, I won't lose this time. Maria, next question, please. Who is Beatrice? You have one large piece of cheese. Okay. A single slice with a knife can split it in two. Okay. So what is the lowest number of slices you can make to cut it into 8 parts? I'm gonna open this in Paint. Huh. Because the way that, look, I'll open up this in Paint. Okay, this is a serious problem, okay? We've never had a problem more serious than this. So if we have a circle, right, representing like a wheel of cheese, the normal way that you would cut it would be like boom, boom, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you would go boom, boom. So we know the obvious cap to this answer is 4. This is the instant cap that you would say, okay, you know, if you cut it efficiently, sure. But then you have to think, is there any way in which if we took this that we could do it in less? So if we cut it in half and then we were to stack the 2 halves on top of each other or something like this, right? And then with one cut, because you would imagine that if you cut it in half, it's not like this can be longer, right? Like if you're already able to cut through the 2R length, these can't be more than 2R. So if you had these stacked on top of each other, then one cut through these would then split it. Well, isn't it just the same? No. Okay, no, I see, yeah. So then you would cut these through, and you would have 4. And then you can complete the exact same thing again if you were to stack all the pieces in such a way that you could cut through all of them, because nobody said you had to cut them perfectly. Then you would have, like, 4 pieces that looked like this, right? And then you could just stack these all on top of each other. So you could definitely do it in 3, for sure, if we don't give a fuck about that. Is there any way that you could do it in 2? 1 obviously seems a little bit sus, but is there any order in which you could do it? Is there any way you could do it in 2? This sounds like a mathematician problem. This reminds me of the, I don't remember the name of the problem, but there's this one problem about, like, prisoners that were captured by Roman soldiers. And, like, what position in a circle you would want to sit in. I want to say it starts with the Z. It's called, like, the something, like, Z something problem. Zeno's problem or something? No, that doesn't sound right. Regardless, the whole idea was that, like, what spot would you sit in? Because these were all, like, prisoners that wanted to kill themselves to keep a secret. But if you had a circle of, like, n number of people, what spot would you sit such that you would be the only person that would survive because you actually don't want to commit suicide to keep your secret, you want to live? And it was, like, a mathematical formula that you could use to decide, like, what would be the correct spot. 3 is definitely, I could see. But you have to think outside the box for this. Is there any other way? Let me check how is the question worded? What is the lowest number of slices with a knife? Okay, because I was going to say, you could kind of, like, cheat the answer. You could say, oh, I break it with my hands, 0 slices. Like, let's see. 3 is, like, the one that's immediately jumping to me. From this. Well, 4 is the obvious, like, cap, right? We already know this is 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces. Okay, we all get that. So we know that 4 is the upper bound for sure with, like, this method. But is there another way? How could you cut this? I don't know. I know this is like nobody cares about this, but this is important to me, okay? How could you do this? Could you do it in two? One, I think I'm going to toss out as being not feasible, unless you're going to like break the problem. But is there a way that you could do it in two? Large piece of cheese. Because if you were to cut it, not like this, but if you were to cut it, like if we think the wheel of cheese looks something like this, if you cut it like this, part of me thinks it's 3. Look, I'm not gonna waste any more time. We'll let the game describe it, but I'm going with 3, okay? That's my thinking right now. Now I gotta make sure all my alt tabs work. Okay, there we go. Ugh. Oh, I know this one. So I guess I'll stay quiet this time. George, acting like the adult he was, set up a mood that would prevent people from answering right away, even if they knew the answer, in effect, sending a warning to Erika. It seemed that Erika understood, and she averted her gaze, snorting derisively. Make 8 pieces, 4 slices would be enough, right? Don't be so foolish. It would hardly be a puzzle, exactly, yeah. Ah, that's right. These are usually set up so that a smaller number than what you'd expect is the answer. Numble, because I can't speak number. But still, how exactly could it be done? Oh, got it. You can only do this because it's cheese. True. If you tried to do it with a birthday cake, there'd be a huge fight. And the whole meme they're going to talk about is how you can't split things evenly, right? Ah ha ha ha. That's right. You might be able to do this with cheese, but you'd never cut a cake like this. Huh? Okay, I feel like I'm right. I feel like it is 3. All of you know the answer. Damn it, am I the only one who doesn't? Oh, I've got it. I see, so you have to think 3-dimensionally. Wait, even Jessica. I don't get it. What do you have to do? I know the answer. It's written right here. You didn't know the answer until you looked, right? You can work it out, Battler. Can you work it out, Battler? Ah, I figured it out as well. This is my only line I'll get in the whole episode. This is something you can do because it is cheese. Yeah, even Dr. Nanjo gets, because with a cake you get icing everywhere. It wouldn't really, like, make sense, you know? Nobody would want it to be cut that way, but in cheese it doesn't really matter. Could it be? Am I the only one who doesn't get it? If we tried cooking your brain a bit, it'd probably become as flexible as cheese. It isn't something like use 0 slices with a knife and break it apart with your hands, right? Nope, that's breaking the problem. No way. It's special cheese that can only be cut with a knife. Think of the cheese in 3 dimensions. If that's hard, it might help to draw a picture on a paper napkin. Or in MS Paint, baby! So we have a large piece of cheese, right? Then we use a knife to make 8 pieces. Can the knife only cut in a straight line? Yep, that's right. The knife only cuts in straight lines. Oh, but here's a hint. You can only cut in a straight line, but you're free to cut it wherever you want. Try thinking of various ways to stick the knife in. You could probably try to think out of the box, or you should probably try to think out of the box a bit. Show us what you've got, Battler. Hey, they never said I couldn't stack it in any way I wanted. You have a large piece of cheese. How many times must you cut it with a knife to make 8 pieces? It's obvious that you could do it in 4. Can it be done in even fewer than that? They hint that it was something that could be done because it was cheese. If it was a birthday cake, you really wouldn't be able to do, or wouldn't be allowed to do this. And now we're going to get the graphic on screen. Cheese. Cheese. Something you can do because it's cheese. Oh. Oh! I've got it. I was totally tricked. This isn't something you can think up with a stiff head. Seems like you finally hit on it. Hopefully it's the right answer. It's impossible to cut the cheese with anything except the knife, right? The knife can only cut in a straight line, right? There aren't any other rules, right? Ugh, not really. Alright, then that's gotta be it. Whew, that was a tough one. Almost like a riddle. Now the real question is he going to provide an answer that's lower than everyone thinks? Yeah, this is true. What Jessica's saying is right. It's just that you won't get anywhere if you always cut down from the top. You make 2 cuts from the top to get 4 pieces. If you keep it like that, you cut across from the side, splitting it up into an upper half and lower half. You get 4 times 2 equals 8 pieces. Okay, yeah. It's an answer you can't reach unless you think 3-dimensionally. So I think they basically said the same thing as me, but I kind of like worded it a different way. Because mine was like stacking the pieces on each other, but... You make 2 cuts from the top to get 4. If you keep it like that and cut across... Okay, yeah. So then you cut horizontally through to make... Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's like the exact same way to do what I was doing, except mine was a little bit more, like, stupid in the way I had made it. My way would be, you would have cut it twice. And that... Well, actually, no. It is the exact same thing. I was just thinking in a different orientation. In other words, the correct answer is 3. Huh? My answer was 2. Really? I thought the correct answer was 1. Wahaha. What kind of magic did you use? Is he going to say something like, oh, well, you just don't stop cutting? There's no way in the world you can manage it with 1. Hehehehe. This isn't a riddle, it's just a normal math problem. Huh? Oh. Really? I thought of the 3-cut method right away. Okay, damn, now they're going to mog on my intelligence. But I figured that was too easy, so I guess I tried to twist it too far. Battler's answer is smaller than the one in the book. Is Battler right? Yes, he is. Battler is right. The answer is 1 slice. Okay, so how exactly could you make it work? Because I felt like 3 was going to be a little bit of a bait, because there's, of course, how could you do this in 1? In only a straight line. Bro, I'm stumped. How could you do this in such a way with only 1 cut? I don't know. Let's just see the explanation. Let's look at the answer key, okay? Battler was happy that someone had confirmed his answer. However, at some point, Erika's face had lost its cheeriness. To think that a human other than myself would answer 1, and that it'd be you of all people. Your answer was 1 too, Erika. I guess you were also thinking pretty far outside of the box. It'd be foolish to arbitrarily decide the shape just because you heard it was a piece of cheese. Oh. That's gay. This is like cheating. Are they gonna say that, oh, it's not shaped like a cheese wheel? That's impossible. Oni-chan got it wrong, didn't he? How could you cut it into 8 pieces with less than 3 slices? How foolish, child of man. It says to cut it into 8 pieces, but nowhere does it say they have to be of equal size. It's still impossible. If you cut it with something other than a knife, the rules say that only the knife can cut it, and the knife can only cut in a straight line. However, to turn it around, the rules do not say anything besides that, so you could modify the cheese. Okay, I mean, that's... Aren't you... Well, okay, I guess the idea is breaking the problem a bit, but, like, come on. It's like, okay, so I can make it so that the cheese is, like, notched in such a way that when I cut down in one straight line, 8 pieces fall off. I mean, like, okay, sure. I get it. When you all heard a large piece of cheese, you thought of a flat cylinder like camembert. I was thinking about sliced cheese, like the kind you might put on your toast for breakfast. After all, I don't usually have anything to do with full blocks of cheese. After all, I don't usually have anything to do with full blocks of cheese that you'd cut with a knife. The shape of the cheese isn't specified in the rules, a mistake by the ones who made the book. I imagine there's a picture of a flat cylinder of cheese there in Maria's book. So I think this is going to be an argument towards the game about how you can break the game rules, like with magic and other things, if you don't properly define the rules. Ooh, there it is, right here. As Erika had guessed, the book Maria held had an illustration of a piece of cheese just as Erika had described it. With the cheese of this shape, 3 slices. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna pat myself on the back at least. You know, I'm operating within the correct realm. You know, maybe you can call me a loser Andy for only, you know, thinking on the straight and narrow, but, you know, I'll take it. You cut it in a plus pattern from the top to make 4 pieces, then cut it from the side to double that and make 8 pieces. However, since the illustration hadn't been shown, the interpretation of the cheese had been left to the answerer. That is right. When the problem was stated, it never said anything about what the cheese's shape was or how flexible it was. Exactly. It seems that Battler was the more flexible one when it comes to both brains and cheese. I don't get it. How does making it sliced cheese let you cut it into 8 parts with a single knife? I'm gonna sneeze really bad. Oh god, I'm gonna sneeze. Because you can fold it up. You do this all the time. Has no one ever... Excuse me. Because you can just fold it before you cut it. Oh, Jesus. Sorry, my ear's itchy. It's kind of cheating, but I mean, I get what they're saying. Let me show it on paint, because I like drawing on paint. So if you had a slice of cheese like this, right? If you were to fold it in half like this, then it looks like this, but it's twice as thick, right? Well, if you were to fold it one more time, right? And now you have it that looks like this. So in reality, it's like kind of 3 layers that are stacked on top of each other. You would just need to fold this one more time. So if you want to fold it in any other way so that it becomes even smaller, it'd look like this or something. And then if you cut it down the middle, you could get 8. That's all. I think that's what they were trying to say. But fuck you for breaking the rules of the problem. But welcome to the world of the witches where we play with words. Wanna try with that paper napkin? Pretended sliced cheese. Now, there actually is a limit on how many you could do, because isn't like this the whole meme about how you can't fold a paper 12 times? Because like a paper that was folded like 12 times. Let me search up this tidbit. Okay, we're gonna give you... or is it 7? It might be 8 times. It's either 8 or 12. I forget what the number is. Is it impossible to fold a paper 12 times? Okay, so it's with the standard A4 sheet of paper. You can't fold it 12 times. and this person who did it, apparently there is someone who's folded tissue paper more than that, but it was a 1.2 kilometer long piece of tissue paper. Because it's kind of what I was saying here, that every single time that you fold something, right, whatever its thickness is, we say the thickness is represented by n. Well, if you fold it in half, it's 2n. And then if you were to fold it again, it's 4n, so on and so on. It's exponential scaling, right? So there's like the whole meme. Vsauce had a video about this forever ago, that if you were to fold a piece of paper, how many times to fold a piece of paper to reach the moon? 42 times. There you go. So, you know. Because if you think about it, like in the distance, or in the thickness, it's just an exponential power problem. So it would be 2 to the 1 if it's unfolded, right? Or sorry, 2 to the 0 if it's not folded. Then 2 to the 1, because then it's 2 to the 2, so on, so on, so on, so on. You know, repeat, 3.33 repeating, of course. Want to try with a paper napkin? Pretend it's sliced cheese. It's like this. You fold it accordion style. How many times do you need to fold it to make 8 sections? 6 times. Wait, am I slow? Okay, I guess you could also do it like that. I mean, you could also do it the way I did, although this would probably make more sense because the way that I was talking about, you would probably rip the cheese. To fold it accordion style, you alternate between upward and downward folds. Once you've done this 6 times, it looks like the side of an accordion. And then if you cut down the middle, with normal cheese, it'd break if you tried to fold it like this. But the rules say that this cheese can't break unless you use a knife, right? Okay, well actually no, then my problem is fine, so yes, no problems there. After all, this is magic cheese that can only be cut by the knife. After folding it, if you start at the top and make a cut right down the middle, you're right. There are 8 parts. Wait a second, the parts aren't all equal this way, right? All the questioner said was to cut it into 8 pieces. They didn't say anything about them being equal. Well, if you change the way you fold it, it is possible to make them all equal sizes, but I wouldn't want to confuse you stiff-headed people with that explanation. Wouldn't that be the easier explanation? That's basically what I just said. The folding method that I use, the non-accordion style folding, would give you equal size pieces. Hehehehe. Oh! Nanjo with his second line. That's why he was so surprised. They said, wait, they wrote me in the script here? Oh! For a while, everyone was stunned. Battler had reached a far better answer than the 3 by thinking of the problem as a riddle. Erika had already known both answers and had even spotted a mistake made by the book. The others could do nothing but stare at those two in surprise. Incredible. So we were the stiff-headed ones. What a failure. My third line. What a failure they didn't give me more. We were thinking in 3 dimensions, but it looks like Battler and Erika were thinking in 1 dimension higher. I don't really know, but I'm pretty sure it was still 3 dimensions, but I get what you're trying to say. I need Erika to pop in with the Reddit atheist go, well, actually, as we are 3rd dimensional beings, we cannot interact in any dimensions higher than the 3rd dimension. And then someone goes, actually, the 4th dimension is time. And you go, okay, fucking, actually, rope. It seems the game with the witch has toughened you up quite a lot. Puzzles without specified rules, in other words, all things not covered by the red truth, are left to the observer's interpretation. Hey look, I just brought this up. It's the most basic of methods for constructing gaps in the witch's locked rooms. What are you talking about? Is that a quote from some novel? Well, let's call it that for now, shall we? Anyway, I guess this means that all your brains are as stiff as rock-hard cheese. Hehehehe. Without any signs of restraint, Erika looked at everyone and laughed sarcastically. Only Maria didn't notice the venom in that laugh as she happily turned to the next page. Ooh, oh dude, I love puzzles. This is so fun. I'm playing Zero Escape all over again. Then on to the next problem. You have 3 cups and 6 coins. Split up the coins so that there's 1 coin in 1 cup, 2 in another, and 3 coins in the 3rd. Ooh. I think I'm saying the least moves possible, right? Wait a sec, that's easy. Just stick 1 coin in the first, 2 in the next, and 3 in the last, and you're done. However, can you do the same thing with only 5? Sorry, what was the defining of this problem? Another cliched problem. Don't tell me that all you need to waste several precious seconds on a problem like this. By now, Erika was gazing around with an unpleasant look, acting in a manner that was completely inappropriate both for a guest and for someone of her age. She was no longer a guest who would be staying until the storm passed. She had transformed into an annoying guest who wouldn't leave until the storm passed. Everyone thought this, but they were unable to say it aloud. Excuse me. Oh, right, speaking of problems with coins, I've heard that you can tell whether someone's good with chopsticks or not by seeing if they can pick up coins with them. Well, then I guess I'm bad with chopsticks. Chopsticks! Yes, chopsticks, that's right. Chopsticks are the most elegant utensil on the planet. Poking things and chopping them up with forks and knives is so barbaric. Chopsticks are the best. For me, using chopsticks is truly an art. Jessica was about to say, "Isn't a chopstick just a stick?" but stopped herself just in time. She realized that it was best to let George take control for now. "I have some change here, so would you like to challenge me? I'm pretty good with chopsticks." That's right. We trained George very well with chopsticks. True. One's upbringing shows in their table manners. Erika was very impressive herself. I'll lend you some coins, too. It'll probably be more fun with more of them. Jessica, watch closely and learn. Cram it already. Alright, let's go. Let's see who can move the most coins over to their plate. Bring it on. Chopsticks, chopsticks, ha ha! This time George had steered the conversation into a good direction. Everyone else understood, and they helped to egg on this chopstick fight and change the subject. They were fully aware by now that Erika was extremely proud of her intelligence, no kidding, and apparently she had the bad habit of using that to look down on other people. She spun her chopsticks around her fingers with the dexterity of a stage magician, staring at the coins scattered on the table like a dog waiting for permission to eat the food placed before him. I had to blow my nose 1 second. Okay, we're good. The unsettling sound of the wind had now blended in with the sound of rain, resembling the howl of some monstrous beast. Just when it seemed to be crying out sadly, it would suddenly turn into a roar and rattle the windows, striking up even more fear and unease within me. Light from the hallway poured in through the thin crack of the slightly open door, and it seemed to carry with it laughter that was warm and happy, but very distant. I'm sure everyone in the dining hall, or somewhere, having a good time is... Did I read that right? I'm sure everyone's in the dining hall or somewhere having a good time. I was like, what the fuck? That didn't make any sense. I want to go there as soon as I can. I'm sure my family will be there. See, interesting to note, family. I hate being all alone in a place like this. Dad. Mom. I stubbornly tried again and again to open the door, but the merciless chain just wouldn't let the door open any further than the crack. On the contrary, feeling this close to a way out just made me more impatient. Gulping and trying to ignore the fear lurking behind me, I quietly closed the door. The light coming out of the crack is just a trap. This is an iron shackle, trying to keep me locked in here for eternity by making me think I'm just an inch away from getting out a door that will never actually open. I need to get out of this creepy room as soon as possible. When I closed the door, all that filled the room was the eerie sound of wind and rain. The way the wind picked up every now and then and shook the window frames felt like a monster in a cage shaking the bars. I was so scared of that monster, I couldn't help but avert my gaze from the windows. Gotta search. If I can't get out the door, I need to find another way out. Just to the side of the door was a closet. There was only enough space inside to hang overcoats. Of course, it didn't connect to anywhere outside the room. If this were hide and seek, it'd probably be fun to hide in there. However, inside this creepy room, it would be no better than stepping into my own coffin. If I go in there, maybe I won't be able to get out of the closet next. This nonsensical fear sent a massive shiver up my spine, and I closed the closet door in a hurry. There's one door left. One door, what? When I opened it, there was the bath and the toilet. Of course, there was no exit. There weren't even any windows. If I turned the faucet, water would probably come out, then disappear down the drain and flow outside, but I couldn't get out that way. Unless I went into the bathtub with the stopper pulled out of the drain and smashed my flesh and bones to bits. I had the feeling that this was the only way out. So the black stopper in the bathtub drain looked extremely terrifying. I tried a lot of things, both mentally and physically, but there really was no way of getting out through the bathroom. All that was left was the windows. The view through the window was pitch black darkness. The fierce winds and rain were slamming against the glass. The darkness on the other side of the window may have been unsettling, but I didn't really care where I went as long as it was outside this room. However, the window was clamped shut. Right down the middle of the window, which was made to swing open like a set of double doors, were several ugly metal clamps. It was even more unnerving than the chain on the door, like a rough operation scar on some bizarre monster. Monster good show. The wind and rain slammed against and shook the window frame, making it creak loudly. However, unlike the door, this wouldn't even open a crack. Open even a crack. Whatever. I read words backwards sometimes, okay? Get used to it. Had enough. Give it a rest already. What the hell is going on with this room? I've had enough of this creepy room. Enough, 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 enough. It's impossible to go outside except by the door and windows. And compared to that thick door, the windows look like it might be possible to break. I'll smash it. If I swing a chair out of the glass, it will probably break. I might even be able to smash the wooden grid dividing up the window. All I need to do is make a gap large enough to slip out of. I grabbed a fancy-looking antique chair and headed back to the window. Ah! I smashed the chair against it. Over and over. The glass smashed with a violent sound and the frame groaned and creaked. I hit it again, over and over. If I can just break through this wooden frame. Damn it, what the hell? Even though all the glass has been smashed apart, even though the cold rain is blowing in and tormenting me, I just can't get that frame to break. They aren't iron bars. It's just a delicate wooden mesh. It's fragile enough to make that creaking sound, so why doesn't it break? No, wait. Maybe it's close to breaking. What if I try attacking it from a different angle instead of just smashing it head on? I stuck my left hand outside through one of the holes in the broken window, grabbed the frame from the front with my right hand, and tried to break it by shaking it around from both sides. My left hand started to grow ice cold from the frigid winds and rain. As I shook, the fragments of glass sticking out from the broken frame poked into me, and my wrist was soon stained with blood. But if I can just get out of here, this much pain is no big deal. But I can't get out. I'm stuck. I can't break it. It won't open. I read that backwards by accident, actually. The more violently I shook the frame, the more the glass fragments tore into my left wrist, causing me intense pain. Wait, what's... Huh? Ow, 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 ow! Before I realized that the glass fragments on the frame had grown longer and more spiky. It was as though an ugly beast was trying to chew my hand off with glass teeth. I wonder if it's reforming. The window, that is. It's not my imagination. They actually are getting longer before my very eyes. Ah, and they're chewing my hand to bits. I tried desperately to pull my hand out, but it had already dug deep into my wrist and I couldn't move it. I put all my strength into it, but it just hurt more and more, and the glass didn't even budge. What the hell? Damn it, let go, let go! With my right fist, I hit the glass over and over, attempting to break it, but that just hurt my right fist as well, and did nothing to release my other hand. Just then, my left hand, which was still stuck outside and exposed to the rain, brushed against something slimy. What? It couldn't have been a leaf blown about by the winds or anything like that. I mean, it felt just like the touch of someone's rain-soaked hand. Then it closed tightly around my left hand. When I felt the 5 fingers, I knew that some person out in the darkness was touching my left hand. And, yes, I know who it is. It's the witch. The terrifying witch who controls Rokenjima's night. The 2 hands soaked in the freezing rain gently caressed my left hand. However, though I could tell this was happening from the touch, I couldn't see anything out there in the darkness. Then it felt about my fingers, and bent my ring finger upwards. Ow, 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 ow! It's gonna break! Ah! At that moment I saw something in the darkness for the first time. It was white. The darkness grinned and bared its white teeth. Then that mouthful of eerily white teeth approached my bent back finger and opened wide. I'm gonna bite it off. It must have been laughing at me from the darkness. After all, its creepy mouth had twisted upward in a huge grin. I had a horrible idea of what it might be trying to do with my finger. A shiver ran up my spine. I resisted as much as I could, but the fangs of the glass just wouldn't release my left hand. And then, after giving my finger a playful nibble. Yeah. I want to see, did they say it was the ring finger on the left, right? Just interesting that it's the ring finger. Maybe something to do with the head's ring, you know. It bit down hard, crushing bone and tearing away flesh all at once, and bit it off. Crunch, rib, tear, squelch. Splat. Puh! They spit it out. Puh! Did you hear something just now? I think I heard it too. It sounded like a clunk. Probably just the wind hitting a window. Heh, this is a beat-up old mansion after all. Yeah, it is pretty creepy. I remember spending a lot of nights all scared that the witch really was walking around the mansion. When I was a brat 6 years ago. Exists. Beatrice exists. What's at the other end of this hallway? There are guest rooms there, but they aren't being used now. Yeah, after all, we have the guest house now. Prior to that, we would always stay in these guest rooms. Yeah, I remember too. When I saw the guest house today, I was surprised at how beautiful it was. Well, that's because it was just built. I wish I could move my own room over there. Shannon, Erika's room is in the guest house too, right? Yes. We prepared a room for her in the guest house. And you say the guest house is a good distance away from the mansion. No matter what kind of trouble happens, we won't be able to hear what's going on in one from the other. Okay. Are you still in detective mode? When all of us wake up tomorrow and everyone says good morning to each other, sounds as though you'll be disappointed. True. It would be troublesome if our numbers haven't thinned by tomorrow morning. Right. Allow me to guide you all to the guest house. And interesting, too, that she says that in front of Shannon, too. When we've been theorizing that we think Shannon may be collaborating with the culprit. Interesting. The adults were apparently about to begin a conversation that they didn't want the kids to hear. The real family conference was about to start. As the kids and Erika followed Shannon on their way to the guest house, they passed through the entrance hall. Looks like it's pouring down at its hardest right now. Wouldn't it be better to watch TV or something in the parlor until it dies down a bit? Mama said to go back to the guest house. Have to go or she'll get mad. Ugh. We'll be way more relaxed over in the guest house. Screw dealing with the grumpy voices and faces of our parents. Hee 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 hee. It looks like everything's falling into place. Erika giggled, an openly indiscreet look on her face. I'll go prepare some umbrellas for everyone. Please wait here. Oh, just a moment. I've been curious for a while. Who might the lady in the portrait be? Well, to be honest, I already know that it's Beato's portrait. Still, we simply walked past it in the last game, which is no fun at all. Erika whispered to herself, but of course no one heard her. Usually you would just think that in your own head, you wouldn't say it, but... This is the master's benefactor, Beatrice. I've heard that she gave grandfather a vast quantity of gold, meaning that she's to thank for the Ushirimiya family's revival. She's just a witch of grandfather's delusions. They say her ghost walks the corridors of the mansion every night. Hey, quit it. That story always freaked me out when I was little, so much that I couldn't stand being in the mansion at night. See, that's the other thing too about Battler, is that if we assume that my theory about the Battler swap being a real thing, he seems to have taken on the memories of the past Battler, which is odd why and how he's not aware of that, you know? Oh right, that's true. What about now, 6 years later? I'd totally forgotten, but looking at this portrait head on, I can feel that old fear coming back a bit. Beatrice isn't scary. At least as long as you respect her. If you don't. Right, Shannon? Yes. That rumor does exist among the servants as well. Rumors about servants patrolling at night, glimpsing mysterious silhouettes. Or gold butterflies. Oh yeah, wasn't there that one servant just last year or the year before that fell down some stairs and got so badly injured that they quit? Wasn't there a rumor that it was Beatrice's curse? Jessica told it like a ghost story, trying to scare Erika, but Erika just laughed disdainfully. Come on, that's creepy. It was probably just an accident, right? Just a coincidence? It happened just after grandfather had this portrait hung here, so it was probably the year before last. So yeah, 2 years ago, like we said. In fact, if I remember, this here is the very staircase that the servant fell down, right? So they fell down the entrance hall. Yep. After all, this insanely huge portrait really stands out. Shortly after it was put up, everyone was talking about what it might be. And then, when the accident happened right afterwards, people started calling it Beatrice's curse. These ghost stories about Beatrice started after the portrait was displayed? No. Rumors about Beatrice's ghost walking about had been around even before that. However, I think those stories grew in number. Okay, so this is interesting. So, 1, the servant. I'm going to pop the notes up. This isn't too surprising. This is like giving a name to something. Like when you pull an explanation out of the ether for something, people are more willing to believe in it over any like unknown possibility, right? Again, it's another thing of like defining the rules of something. Before then, even though they had heard about the witch Beatrice, they didn't have an actual distinct picture in their head of what she'd be like. I imagine that this portrait made the picture distinct for them, strengthening the rumors even more. The image of Beatrice was not known prior to the portrait. So who started all the talk about the witch Beatrice in the first place? Grandfather. He'd get in a rage and start yelling about my beloved witch Beatrice. Though until we saw that portrait, we had no idea what she looked like. It's no surprise that you'd get 1 or 2 ghost stories with a creepy portrait like this hanging around. You always get ghost stories cropping up around things like a portrait of Beethoven in the music room or the statue of the school founder. True. Given that people have been spending time in an old gloomy mansion like this, with the sound of wind and rain constantly present in the background, it doesn't surprise me that a few ghost stories have arisen. Well, it's nothing more than a ghost story. A fantasy. A fairy tale. Worth less than the useless drivel of a half-sleeping nitwit. Erika looked up at the portrait and smiled at it defiantly. Maria's face immediately soured, as though she felt that this smile was disrespectful to Beato. Ugh. Beatrice exists. If you say things like that, you'll definitely feel the curse of the witch. Oh, how frightening. Please curse me if you can, Beatrice. I'd love if she got killed. So if we find you mysteriously dead next morning, it'll be the start of a witch's murder case. You're the detective, right? Wouldn't having the detective get killed off in the beginning be a little too radical? Ah, that would be troubling. That would get in the way of the crime scene inspection. I see. Even the Nox rules don't prohibit the detective being killed. I have something good. It's a charm that'll okay, look! The charm getting brought back. It's a charm that'll protect you from Beatrice's curse. A charm? You have a charm for something like that? After fishing around in her bag, Maria pulled out a string of beads attached to a medal that had a scorpion drawn on it. It looked like a cheap prize from an arcade or something. What are these? Ugh, they're magic-repelling charms. Their effect is very weak, but if you use them, you'll definitely be able to avoid Beatrice's curse all night long. I've heard that spiderwebs are also useful for repelling magic. Ugh, Beato's avatar is a butterfly, so that's probably why she doesn't like spiders. Interesting. We had never got an answer to why that was, so Maria produces the charms again. Shannon brings up spiders being magic repellent. Likely because Beatrice's form is a butterfly. I mean, I guess that's an explanation that makes sense. She has a dislike of them. Wasn't it the evil spirits of Ikuji Kijima that were weak against that? Kumasawa knows a lot about that sort of thing. Which is an evil spirit? This is getting a bit interesting. Would you mind telling me about it in a little more detail when we get to the guest house? Here are your umbrellas. It's still raining very hard outside, so please take care. Wasn't it the evil spirits of Ikuji Kijima that were weak against that? Jessica counters and says that it was the spirits of Ikuji Kijima that were weak. That's the only time Ikuji Kijima has been brought up again since literally the first chapter. I guess same with the charms. Seemingly gives one to Erika. Jessica Counter says that it was the spirits of Ikuji Kijima that were weak, not Beatrice. We'll get back to that shortly. Shannon handed out the umbrellas she had brought. Everyone headed towards the front door. After that, when they were done left standing in front of the portrait, a gold butterfly appeared. Surely one did. Then expanding out in a spray of gold, it took human form. In the hall, empty now that the children had left, Beato stood alone and silent, looking up at her own portrait. Without a doubt, the figure depicted there was as like her as an image in a mirror. However, it felt as though its eyes and expression were just a little different from hers. From her perspective, while the person in the portrait was almost infinitely close to herself, it was just as surely a different person entirely. Who are you? Please tell me what kind of person you are. Beato had already finished reading the fragments from Featherine? I don't remember how I said it. Featherine's archive, and showed the tales. Sorry, let's just reset. Beato had already finished reading the fragments from Featherine's archive that showed the tales of all the games so far. However, the witch called Beatrice, who had been depicted in them, had been so vastly different from her. At the very end, it had looked as though that witch and Battler had connected just a little bit as adversaries, but for the most part, Beatrice had just bullied Battler in nearly all the tales. Hey man, he's into that femdom shit, okay? Good for him. Even though this was about her, she had no idea why Beatrice had tormented Battler so much when she had supposedly been born for Battler's sake. All she had learned from Featherine's archive was that the former Beato was a completely different person who defied understanding. What happened to you? I am an egg of you, a chick. Your wings should have existed for father's sake. Just when did you have one of those torn off and end up so drastically different? Funny to say wings to become the one-winged, you know? She'd also been listening to the conversation Battler and the others had just been having. Beatrice can't handle scorpion charms. Beatrice can't deal with spider webs. It wasn't as though she would like to touch either one of those if she had the choice, but nothing bad would happen if she did. Was being perfectly fine around those proof that she wasn't Beatrice? No. Once again, we brought this up. The person probably doesn't believe in the magic things, but they have to keep up the impression that it is a real thing. Even though it was about herself, she didn't understand at all. Okay, so we're going to say this, that Egg Beatrice says that there's nothing about scorpion charms or spider webs that repel her. Just so something to think about. Even though it was about herself, she didn't understand it all, so she quietly gazed into her own eyes on the portrait. It felt as though the truth hid behind those eyes. Beato slowly approached the portrait, and then she lightly touched it. Oh, Super Mario 64! When she did, it felt as though the portrait rippled slightly. Yes, this is a doorway. A doorway to the long path that would lead her to the Golden Witch Beatrice. Beato felt a bit dizzy. She lost her balance, feeling as though the world was twisting around her. Then she couldn't tell which way was up or down and was swallowed downwards. With a soft, watery sound, Beato was sucked into the portrait. The world inside the portrait was pitch black. However, there was nothing unsettling about it. It was a comfortable darkness, like when you put your head under the covers in a bed at night. Beato realized this was a world inside herself. It's called introspection. So despite the darkness, she felt a warm embrace. As long as she asked for nothing, this world would ask nothing of her. But she couldn't remain like this. She didn't want to spend eternity inside the darkness of this world. Yes, I need to hatch out of my egg. The darkness is the inside of the shell that surrounds the gold butterfly called Beatrice. Well, I don't know if they are birthed from eggs that have a shell like that. They might be eggs in the sense of calling it an egg, but I don't know about that. I will be born for father's sake. I will live for my father Battler's sake and be born to serve him. You don't understand. He doesn't want to be Dom. Okay, he's into femdom. So you're already off on the wrong foot. But she put her purpose, her reason for being born into words. As if in response to those words, the seal on the shell began to melt away. Cracks appeared in the darkness and a brilliant light enveloped the world. Gonna recreate the Golden Land? Fuck. No, it's the Sea of Souls or whatever they called it. And so Beatrice was born. Huh? Ooh, human Beatrice. There I stood, along with another me. For a second I thought that the me in front of me was the real Beatrice, the one I wanted to be more like. However, she was looking back at me with the same bewildered eyes, so I realized that wasn't quite it. That's right. I wasn't the only one born from the egg. She was also born. My twin? No, it feels a bit different. How can I put it? Both of us are lacking something and immature. Yes, both of us are chicks, but we are also fragments of the true Beatrice. It felt as though the two of us together could become the real Beatrice. No one explained this to us. However, we naturally understood. I decided to talk to this other me. Unless I get to know her and become one with her, I won't be able to become the Beatrice Father desires. In other words, the thing that Father wants from me, and was so heartbroken to find missing, must be something that she has. Hello? The Beatrice with her hair down looked at me dubiously several times, then finally spoke. Why do you have the same face as me? She used the word Wadawa to refer to herself, just like the true Beatrice. It looks like she really does have something that I lack. Well, I don't know why either. I am the Golden Witch Beatrice, and you are? I am also Beatrice. I was born for the purpose of serving Ushirimiya Battler. I am the Golden Witch and the ruler of Rokenjima's Night. I know Ushirimiya Battler, but I have trouble imagining why I would have to serve a brat like him. So this is now, it's like the confrontation between like the legend of the Golden Witch and then like the witch herself, I guess, if that makes sense. That's my interpretation of this so far. I realized that the thought I'd had a second ago, that together we could become the true Beatrice, must really have been true. Though the person in front of me does have the part that makes her a witch, which I lack, she does not possess the mission to live for Ushirimiya Battler's sake. She has what I do not, and I'm sure I have something she does not. We must be one person in two. I think we're something like twins. No, you're like reflections of each other, right? You have outside the game board Beatrice, right? And you have Peace Beatrice, or Legend Beatrice, that exist in the game. No, that is not so. You are my little sister. I've been here since long before you were born. Huh? I had no idea. The personification of the rules. Oh, the chandelier! Every time we get a new chandelier CG, I love it. I was born later. So does that mean the mission to live for Ushirimiya Battler's sake was born later on? However, I don't think my existence is something quite as faint and intangible as a mission. I have enough of a personality to think and act as I am doing now. So the witch Beato and I are separate people, both of us possessing something the other lacks. In that sense, maybe it's fitting for us to call ourselves sisters, as she says. I want to know about you. I also wish to know. I understand that you are also me. Why is it that you speak that way, and why must you serve Battler? As long as we cannot understand that, it seems both of us will remain immature. I want to become a complete Beatrice. Until you were born, I was complete. However, now that you have appeared, I believe that accepting you is my obligation. I also wish to know about you, like she discovered a new part of herself that she didn't know she had, you know? Aw, I like Beatrice. The witch Beato's tone was very slightly arrogant, matching with her self-proclaimed status as the older sister. However, since we both realized that we were the same person, there was no need to be unkind. This was probably because she understood after meeting me that her current form was not her real self. Where are we? Is this the hall of the mansion? Oh, the portrait's gone. Beato gasped. Her portrait wasn't there. Does that mean that this was at least 2 years in the past? Precisely. This is the hall of the Ushirimiya mansion. The night is my time, and the nighttime mansion is mine as well. That fool Kinzo is still so desperate to catch me or revive me. How truly ironic. For here I am openly controlling the mansion each and every night. Ha 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 ha. So, what do you do here? I've lost my body, and due to the effects of that hateful shrine, I have no magical power. However, I am reviving that magical power bit by bit every day. Miles' my goal is to undergo a spectacular resurrection and gloat to Kinzo. I cannot wait to tell him that I have succeeded in escaping his cage. For now I have become something of a ghost, wandering about in killing time every night, all in anticipation of that gloating grin. Can I come with you? Of course. After all, you are a part of me. How could a left arm refuse the company of the right? It would be senseless to refuse. I shall be pleased to have you, my little sister, the new Beatrice. Thank you very much. Oh, One-sama. A somewhat embarrassing name, but it is not bad. Come, let us go. Let us take a walk through the nighttime mansion. Let me introduce you to my boring everyday life. Clearly they only had one graphic, and they just mirrored it, but it's okay. The two Beatrices changed their forms into two gold butterflies, and fluttered silently into the depths of that shadowy mansion. Okay, this is a perfect stopping point. Wow, okay. Look, I glazed episode 3 start. I think this is the best start so far of an episode. I am fucking loving this episode. The source of magic. Okay, look, I'm closing my eyes. I don't see anything. I don't know where we are. Oh god, let me save the game, please. I'm not reading the text. My hand's up over the screen, except I can see it. Okay. We're gonna call the stream here for now. I'm gonna edit everything and put it all together. Episode 5 notes will be up literally in like 20 minutes from the end of this. And I'm gonna try to continue to not have more than a day gap between streams. I have schoolwork I have to keep up, and my sleep schedule is kind of fucked, so I'm probably gonna go to sleep, wake up, do some schoolwork, and ideally I'll do my schoolwork and then I'll come on after late at night. The streams going forward, I don't know if they'll be as long. They probably will, because I'm still not fully in the swing of things, but, you know, just as an aside, you know, just trying to get through everything. But regardless, this was a fucking great start. I love this episode so far. Episode 3, episode 6. This is feeling like an episode 2, episode 5 angle, although 2, 5, Higurashi were a lot more interconnected. Loving this so far. But we're going to call it here. And whenever I upload this stream will be separate from the theory stream. I have to edit the theory stream because my stupid ass decided to use Google Maps while signed into an account so you can see my address. So, no bueno. So, I'm going to fix that. Regardless, thank you for stopping by if you're watching. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on Twitch, wherever you are. Appreciate it. We'll be back very soon to continue episode 6 and hopefully wrap up Umineko as we get closer to the end. Thank you, and good night.